How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the there's no place to hide. I'm burning in the this is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the there's no place to hide. I'm burning in the this is the final
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her. Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich ein Genialwalter einweist und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn. Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, und ein Platz genossen ist, weil ich ein Genialwalter einweist und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein. Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, und ein Platz genossen ist, weil ich kein Genialwalter einweist und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Здравствуйте, comrades. Welcome to Socialism Saturday. Socialism Saturday is when we watch the real far left, the farthest of the far left, the most dystopian of the dystopian. These are the people who are pushing every crazy idea in our world today, if you want to know where critical race theory and anti-racist education in schools comes from, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who pushed DEI training into every major organization, who has taken over every union to recruit in the workplace, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who pushed gender and queer ideology into schools and now deny that even such a thing exists, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who are shouting their abortions and pushing reproductive justice, free on demand up until birth, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. Literally every insane thing that we have to deal with in this country comes from one origin point, and that is the radical revolutionary far left in America organizing and doing activism all over the country all the time, pushing these ideas into every major organization, every major institution, taking over control of the public schools, basically controlling how culture is made in this country. It all comes from the same place. And those are the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. These are not the people that you are ever going to see covered on conservative media. Conservative media doesn't even know these people exist. But what we do is we go back, we watch their training, we watch their events, we watch their own videos. We watch their videos that they use to teach each other what they believe. Because education is at the center of what the radical revolutionary far left does. And how lucky for us as people who are going in and studying what these people do and what they think and how they act and how they organize and what they believe and how they're winning and how they're being so successful. How lucky for us they put all these materials online. And so we can just watch what they think, and we don't need a filter, and we don't need someone else showing it to us. And again, quite frankly, the stuff you see on this channel, you will never, ever, ever see, or very rarely, on any mainstream conservative outlet, on any mainstream podcast, on any news program. That even though the people in the government do know about this, because I make fucking sure they know about it, they don't ever do anything about it. The people who watch this channel and this content, you guys are some of the only people who are not on the communist left that even understands what this stuff is. So congratulations. Oh, a new person. Hey, new person. We have a little tradition in the chat. When you're brand new on this channel and you think you know everything and you come in and you want to try to teach us something, here's what you need to do, P. What is the left's definition of capitalism? This question is only for P. I'm going to check P's channel history. P, please inform us, what is the left's definition of capitalism? Never chatted in before. Brand new on the channel, has never chatted in. P, if you know everything about the far left, please tell us, what is the left's definition of capitalism? We're waiting for your answer. No one else answered this except for this person. This is a little test we do when people come onto my channel, especially on Socialism Saturday, and you guys act like you know everything, and you want to come in here and puff out your chest, then you are going to answer socialist question 1 for us. No. Nope. Wrong. So let's get something straight, P. You know nothing. Chat, and I'll put the chat comments on the screen so everyone can see it. Chat, please inform our brand new person here what the left's definition of capitalism is. There is one specific answer. There is only one answer. And you don't even know basic 101 level socialist stuff, dude. So maybe when you come onto a channel and you're new here for the first time on the flagship show on the channel where we do real research that no one else on the internet is doing, hey, you know what? Hey, at least I appreciate this. Hang on. That's not the one I want to appreciate. It is private property ownership. I appreciate, oh my goodness, the chat keeps jumping. I do appreciate this. I know nothing. So P, the left's definition of capitalism is private property ownership. Private property ownership. Look at all those people who know. Private property ownership. Why is it important that we understand what the left's definition of capitalism is? Because capitalism is the number one enemy of the far left. Why is it important that we understand that capitalism is not just it's not just an economic model, it's a cultural model? Because when they say private property ownership, they mean things like parental rights over your children. They mean things like your individual liberties. They don't just mean the means of production. They mean your nuclear family. The nuclear family is considered to be a form of private property under the far left. They mean the United States Constitution. They believe the United States Constitution was just written to uphold private property rights. The United States government was entirely built on private property. Therefore, they only win and abolish capitalism when they abolish the United States Constitution and the government. Well, no, you didn't know that, P. No, you didn't. Because if you knew what the answer was, you would have said the answer. And now what's going to happen, P, is you're going to get put in a timeout for 5 minutes because you no longer have the ability to speak in my chat. Your job is now to listen. When you are new on the channel, guys, nothing wrong with being new. Nothing wrong with being new at all. But if you think you're going to march right in here, I did see your super chat too, ladies. If you think you're going to march right in here and you're going to tell us what's what, that's the time when you sit down in the back, you shut your fucking mouth and you listen. Because I promise you, for if you're new, you might think I'm being harsh. You might think I'm being unnecessarily aggressive. I have been doing this for a long time. And I can't tell you how many people come onto the channel, think they know everything, and they only start listening when they get slapped right in the face. And then they start realizing they don't know shit. And this is part of the problem. Because the right pretends that communism and socialism is the enemy. The right pretends that they know the far left. But they have no effing clue who their enemy is. They have no effing clue what their enemy cares about, but they run around, puff out their chest, and they think they know everything when in fact they can't answer basic 101 level information about the enemy they claim to have. That is what we do here. On Socialism Saturday and on my streams throughout the week, we learn as much as we can about the actual enemy. We listen to what the actual enemy talks about. We listen to what the actual enemy does. We break down their language. We break down their strategies. We get to learn their organizations. We get to learn their activists. We know exactly what they think about ideas. We can predict what they're going to do months or sometimes even years ahead of time because we find them talking about it. And then all of a sudden, did you guys know, P.S., for all the new people and you just found out about socialism because of the Party for Socialism and Liberation getting famous because this data Republican shill on Twitter just discovered the Party for Socialism and Liberation exists. I have the Party for Socialism and Liberation on video in 2022 talking about staging pre-revolutionary crises by provoking disturbances all over the country. And guess what? That's exactly what they did in 2024 and 2025. And most of you didn't even find out about it until 2025. I started tracking them in 2022. So you think you're going to come in here and tell me something I don't know about socialism? Good fucking luck. You better bring your A game, because if you don't, you're going to get timed out because your job is to sit and listen and learn and ask questions. You're allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to act like an expert. Thank you, two ladies. Karlyn is so right. I know. All the time. Seeing so much in Seattle firsthand is absolutely scary, and I'm thankful for our work our family is doing. Yeah, two ladies just went to Seattle and walked around, and two ladies saw the socialism all over the place. It is crazy. Thank you again, two ladies. We go to these places we go to the places they meet too. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Guys, if you would like to support the work I'm doing, one of the very best ways to do so on Socialism Saturday is to send in a super chat. I do have a nominal goal of $100 in super chats on Socialism Saturday just to justify spending so much time streaming with you guys. If you guys appreciate all the work I do, breaking down the radical revolutionary far left, finding their content, showing it to you, explaining what all of it means, dealing with idiots who come into my chat and act like retards, and just generally exposing this information to the world, please feel free to throw in a $5 super chat, $10 super chat, $100 super chat, $500 super chat. If you appreciate it, I am 100% funded by people like you. And I can't do this work without you. So guys, we're going to be watching today. We're going to be watching. Hang on. We're going to be watching some videos that socialists have posted on the internet. Real socialist organizations. We're not talking about places like Vosh. We're not talking about Hassan Piker. We're not talking about YouTube socialists. By the way, everyone knows, right, that YouTube socialists are not real socialists. Hassan Piker is not a socialist. Vosh is not a socialist. They are not taken seriously on the real radical revolutionary far left at all in any way. The American Communist Party is not real. They are a social media stunt at best. And so I hope people understand that, because I think a lot of people are confused. We get people in here all the time asking about Hassan Piker and Vosh. And it's like, you guys have got to understand that just because someone has a social media account and just because someone has social media followers does not actually mean that they are a real socialist. So today what we want to do is we want to tune in to what the real socialists and communist activists in the real world think of Zohran Mamdani. And also, I'm going to give you guys a little inside information that I got this week, because this past week, I actually went inside a New York City Democrat Socialist of America meeting. And this meeting was not a meeting that was open to the public. This is a meeting that I had to get a membership code in order to be a part of. And I'm not going to tell you how I did that, but I might just say that I did that. And so we're going to talk about why Zohran won, and we're going to talk about some of the data that the actual DSA has about them, because it is actually scary. Got a few super chats. LK, glad to have made it through tonight's Socialism Saturday. We'll be watching as I attempt to make macaroons. Well, good luck with those macaroons, LK. Hey, Trendolin in with the 5 channel memberships. Let's see who got a channel membership. Let's see. Mojave got one. Jardam got one. Ryan got one. Fetty got one. Lisa Jean got one. Congratulations to everyone who got a channel membership from Trendolin. Thank you, Trendolin, for that. I really appreciate it. Naruti said, Karlyn, are you drinking anything fun today? How is the blues beer you had last week? So am I drinking anything fun today? I don't think so. I just have some coffee. I honestly slept in today to like a disgusting degree. And I'm not even, it feels so weird to be doing, like, this is how late I slept in. It feels very weird to me right now that it's 6:30 p.m. at night and my internal clock is all screwed up. So I'm not drinking anything fun. I do have a giant cup of coffee, and I will be availing myself of the coffee that I probably should have had several hours ago, but I slept in. Okay. It's my weekend too. Don't worry about it. Donnie girl, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Let me update our total here. So I do want to go in and I want to watch what real revolutionary socialists think about Zohran Mamdani. Because Zohran Mamdani, as you guys know, is the Democratic socialist who is now the mayoral nominee for the Democrats in New York City. The Democrats are not happy about this. By the way, everyone knows, right? The Democratic Party is not even endorsing Zohran Mamdani. So anyone who thinks that Democrats and socialists are the same thing, like, can we just stop lying? No, Gavin Newsom is not a communist. That is a literally absurd idea. He is absolutely not a communist. Hang on one second. I'm just dealing with a little problem we have over on YouTube. There we go. Now on Twitter. Now our Twitter friend is permanently blocked. He's not going to show up in the chat anymore. Hey, 2 ladies in with the gifted memberships. Let's see who got a membership from 2 ladies. Thank you guys for that. Papu got one. Spencer got one. DP got one. Fred got one. And Adriel got one. Congratulations to whoever got a gift membership from 2 ladies. Appreciate that. So we have a couple videos we're going to watch today. And then we're going to kind of play it by ear and see. The first video we're going to watch is from the Denver Communists. The Denver Communists is, of course, one of our favorite revolutionary communist groups because they make so much content. Thank you, Bookmark, for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. The Denver Communists make so much content on the internet, and they put it all up on their YouTube channel, and they usually do relatively plain spoken presentations. So they actually have a 38-minute video where someone is doing a presentation at a meeting for the Denver Communists, and this is just a couple of days old. This is very, very new. So we're going to get the hot take from the Denver Communists. Is Zohran Mamdani actually a socialist? And we also have another clip from another revolutionary communist organization, the Revolutionary Communists of America, and they also create a lot of content on the internet. We haven't been covering them as much lately, but they do actually create a lot of content. Hey, Catherine, thank you for the Venmo or Cash App for $10. I do appreciate that. I'll add that to the total here. So we're going to watch the Revolutionary Communists of America take on Zohran Mamdani to see what they have to say about it. And then I kind of found this video and I thought this would be interesting to watch. This is from Status Quo News. They are a leftist revolutionary news outlet where they basically do like this on the ground reporting stuff of a lot of socialist protests and, you know, direct actions and things like that. So they do like the on the ground stuff so we can actually see what they're doing. And this video came up, this is a video from the night that Zohran won the Democratic primary. And so they basically went around and they like interviewed people on the street to find out what they thought of Zohran Mamdani. And I kind of scrubbed through the video a little bit if YouTube will let me do it. Apparently it doesn't want me to do it now. But they actually just go around and talk to people like on the street about what they think about Zohran. And they interview people about him. And I actually kind of want to see what people have to say about him, just like average New Yorkers. And I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch because the thing is I think that the right is, you know, like a shocking revelation, right, guys? The right is completely unhinged about Zohran Mamdani. They really have no F-off clue what they're talking about. And I'm going to give you an example of that. I have to go to my Twitter feed to show you this. But like this, there's this one guy on Twitter that just drives me absolutely insane. And it's this guy right here, Sean Farish. I think the only reason I started following this guy is because he followed me at some point, and he had a relatively big platform, and I kind of usually try to pay attention to people who follow me that have relatively big platforms. This guy is one of the stupidest mother effers on this platform. And it's like not even close. And I want to read to you what he said about Eric Adams and Mamdani. And then I want to show you the actual data. I want to show you the actual data from the Mamdani campaign. Because the reason I have the actual data from the Mamdani campaign is the other day, I did a spy stream where we infiltrated the Democratic Socialists of America in New York City at one of their private meetings. It was so private, they kicked all the press out. But of course, I didn't leave and I recorded the whole F-off thing. And I've got a bunch of charts that I want to show you guys. And if you want to watch the full meeting, you can find it on my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. You can find a link to the full recording of the meeting. The sound is really not good for like half the meeting. It was their fault. It wasn't mine. But even with the sound being bad, we still got just a ton of information about how the Mamdani campaign won, how they did what they did. And this wasn't even from the official Mamdani campaign. This was through the New York City Democratic Socialists of America talking about all the efforts they made in New York and the reason why he won. And the data that they had and that they showed is scary. And I bring this up because retards like this jackass have no effing clue. This guy has how many followers? 336,000 followers. He has no effing clue, and I'm going to prove that to you. He tweeted this morning, Cuomo's biggest obstacle is Eric Adams. No. With Adams out, these votes are far more likely to go to Cuomo than they are to Mamdani, as they're more moderate in nature. No! Silwa's GOP voters are less likely to vote for Cuomo than Adams and Indies and Dems. Bottom line, if Adams drops out and gets behind Cuomo, Mamdani would be in serious trouble. And I responded to him, and listen, I was doing this on my phone earlier in the morning, and so I made some typos in this, and so Sean is so fucking retarded, he got distracted by the typos, but I'm going to show you what I wrote, and then I'm going to show you the data to prove it, asshole. This is actually retarded. Yeah, I had some typos. And shows you have no clue about how the Mamdani campaign is organizing. They have over 50,000 volunteers registering new voters all over the city. Thank you, No Mayo, for that super chat. I do appreciate it. Hang on, let me add that to the total while I'm thinking about it. They have over 50,000 volunteers registering new voters all over the city. They have over 20,000 individual donations in the primary. Cuomo got 2,700. They knocked on 1.3 million doors and made over 2 million phone calls. They targeted voters disaffected by the Democrats who hate Cuomo and people who don't usually vote in mayor's races. Cuomo performed exactly as he was expected to in the primary. It was Mamdani that blew all the expectations out. Because of the organizing of the DSA, you paid shills, that should have said shill, has no clue who your actual enemy is. So there were like, 2 or 3 typos in this entire post where I literally laid out, here is exactly how Mamdani won, and here is why you guys have no effing clue what you're talking about. And the moron GOP shill says, I'm curious, is it possible for you to write a coherent post anymore? This is a mess. You have no clue what you're talking about, you manic lunatic. Oh yeah, Sean? Oh yeah? I have no clue what I'm talking about, Sean? Okay, well, let's just see. Let me show you exactly what the data inside the Democratic Socialists of America campaign actually says in New York City. Let me show you this, Sean, because these are screenshots from the meeting that Sean has no F-off clue about because he doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff. And when Sean was shilling conservative talking points over on Twitter, I was going inside their actual private meetings and recording them and getting all their data. This is the NYC Democratic Socialists of America earlier this week doing a debrief. They had over 300 people in a giant church they were doing this debrief to. There were another couple hundred people online on a Zoom call, which is how I got access to all of this. And let me show you the internal data from the DSA about the Mamdani campaign and why they won and why conservative retards like Sean have no F-off clue what they're talking about. This is the overall results for the Democratic mayor's race in New York City. And guess what? You can actually find these results too, because the DSA built a whole website where you can look at this chart that I'm showing you on the screen now. It is results.socialist.nyc. But let me just walk you through this. What this chart says is that Zohran Mamdani won the mayoral nomination by 12 points. Zohran Mamdani beat Andrew Cuomo by 12 points. And you can see the yellow on this graph, those are all the precincts in which Zohran Mamdani won. This was not just a small win. This was a massive, massive blowout. And the reason that it was a massive blowout is the Democratic Socialists of America in New York City have organized a mass volunteer army that's been making millions of phone calls, knocking on millions of doors. They're going into mosques in New York City. There was a team of people with the DSA that went to over 150 mosques in New York City, specifically to take the issue of Palestine and weaponize it, because their position is the Democrats haven't done enough on Palestine, and they're specifically targeting people who have never registered to vote before around mosques to get them to register to vote, to become new voters in the mayor's race to vote for Zohran Mamdani, who was the only person who said he wasn't going to go to Israel and free Palestine. The DSA has been doing a massive voter registration drive all over the city, and you're going to see proof of this in these charts. The new voter registration is insane, and they're all voting for Zohran Mamdani. But let's just walk through these one by one. This is an example of the turnout effort, because in addition to doing a voter registration drive, the DSA in New York City also did a massive voter turnout effort. So this is one example where you can see on the left, those are the highest areas of concentration that they turned out. On the left, strike that, reverse it. On the left is the highest areas of support for Zohran Mamdani in the city. On the right, in the green and pink, or the green and purple rather, those are the highest areas of turnout. So the areas that the DSA targeted specifically with a voter turnout drive ended up being the highest areas of support in New York City, and you can see it even closely. There is absolutely a correlation between the DSA's turnout effort and the overall percentage of people who voted for Zohran Mamdani. The Democrats obviously weren't doing any turnout. Cuomo obviously wasn't doing any turnout. The Republicans obviously weren't doing any turnout. It was only the DSA and their 50,000 volunteers that were doing a massive voter turnout during the mayoral nomination. And guess what? Now they just have more and more volunteers, and they have more and more money that they're working with, and now they have more and more support. Do you think this voter turnout drive is going to go anywhere? Because again, remember, a lot of the people that are turning out to vote for Zohran Mamdani, they have never voted in an NYC mayor's race before. They just got registered by the Democratic Socialists of America. So now those are their voters. And by the way, the other thing I want people to understand, the DSA in New York City is not just thinking about this one mayoral's race. The DSA in New York City is trying to do a massive effort to not only take care of this campaign, but all future campaigns. So the voter registration drive they're doing, that doesn't just apply to this, that applies to all future campaigns. So this is not just about winning one battle. They are thinking long term. Karlyn with the stealth Willy Wonka quotes. Hey, thanks, Axhead. I do appreciate the super chat. Wouldn't it be cool if we could reach that super chat goal before I even started showing you guys the good stuff? But let's continue with these charts, Sean. Here is an example of the age distribution of the people who voted in the mayor's race in New York City, again, according to the Democratic Socialists of America. And you can see, look at the increase in Democratic primary voters among people aged 18 through 39. These are the 2021 results over here. And then there was a massive increase in the total number of younger voters in the Democratic primary in 2025. Why do you think it happened? It happened because of the New York City DSA and their massive organizing effort. And if you have any questions about this, this was one of the most shocking charts of the entire presentation. These are new voter registrations just based on the DSA's turnout effort. The DSA registered, what is this, upwards of 50,000 new voters? Like, are you serious? Cumulative new registrations beginning 100 days before the registration deadline. They registered this red line right here. This is all DSA. This is all the DSA's organizing effort. They registered at least 40,000 new voters in New York City just based on this effort. Thank you, Chris Campbell, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. We are almost at that goal. Look how far along we're going. Does anyone have any questions about why Zohran Mamdani won? Do you know who has questions? The retards on the right who don't bother to look at basic information, Sean. Let's look at this case study right here. This was a specific case study they talked about on the call. This is a case study of Brighton Beach, which is a precinct in New York that apparently is near Coney Island. And the big news about this Brighton Beach precinct for the New York Democratic Socialists of America is that in 2021, only 46 people in the entire precinct voted for the Democratic candidate for mayor in Brighton Beach. Brighton Beach is one of the areas that the DSA targeted specifically for their turnout efforts and their voter registration efforts. And I'm just going to turn off the chat real quick so you can see the data on the other side of the slide. Zohran Mamdani ended up getting 71% of this vote in this district, a district that had previously gone for Eric Adams. They also tripled the number of people turning out to vote in the Democrat mayor's primary. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but again, we have to remind ourselves this is a voter registration drive and a voter turnout effort, and you can see the results of the DSA's work in just one precinct. And by the way, on the call, when they were talking about this slide, they were also talking about how this specific district had gone for Trump in the general election and about how people went out throughout this district and they had conversations with Trump voters and Republicans in this district who then came around to vote to appreciate Zohran and Zohran's ideas just based on talking about the issues. They specifically targeted Trump voters in this district. And guess what? Zohran Mamdani ended up winning with 71% of the vote in the primary. Do people have questions about how this happened? Then we get into the numbers for the polling results. I'm just going to turn the chat off on the screen again so people can see the whole chart. One of the most interesting things about this call is the Democratic Socialists in New York explained that Andrew Cuomo actually performed exactly as the polls expected him to perform. So Andrew Cuomo, this is how the polls had Andrew Cuomo performing. And guess what? Andrew Cuomo actually performed exactly like the polls expected him to perform. You know who didn't perform like the polls expected them to? Zohran Mamdani. And the reason Zohran Mamdani completely blew out any estimate of what they thought they were going to get for performance was because of the massive voter registration drive and the massive targeting for turnout of voters and the massive targeting of new voters and voters who had previously never voted in a New York City's mayor's race before. This is why the polls were not able to predict this at all. Also, apparently, everyone hates Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo has a base of support around 30%, and then everyone else hates him, and they would sooner vote for Zohran Mamdani than Andrew Cuomo. That is how much they hate him. Here are the numbers again the DSA gave on this call. They made 1.6 million knocks on doors. They went actually out into the community, knocked on 1.6 million doors in previously untargeted communities that had never actually even participated in an election contest like this. They made 2.3 million phone calls. Can you just wrap your head around that? This is a group of volunteers. Every single person doing this is volunteers. These are not paid political operatives. These are all people volunteering their time to make phone calls, send emails, send text messages, going out into the real world, knocking on 1.6 million doors. They had over 30,000 unique active volunteers with 50,000 people signed up to volunteer for them. They had over 3,000 events in the 6 months leading up to the New York City mayor's primary in over 60 neighborhoods. And the campaign was specific about the voters. It was targeting the people who hadn't been participating before, the people who are most likely to be pissed off and disaffected at the Democratic Party. And that is why they won. And this chart is one of the most terrifying charts in the entire thing. And I want people to really pay attention to this. This is about fundraising. And again, conservative retards like this asshole with over 330,000 followers have no fuck off clue why Zohran Mamdani won it all, and no clue why he is absolutely 1,000% going to win in the mayor's race, and it's not even going to be close. Thank you, Dragon Balls, for being a member of the channel for 17 months. When candidates say they would visit Israel first as mayor, and Mamdani said he would visit New Yorkers, including Jewish community, wake up, folks. Yeah, that's exactly right. This chart is about fundraising. Now, here's the thing. In New York, they have this weird fundraising thing where if you get $1 in donations from a New York City resident, the actual city will give you $8 for each $1 you raise from a New York City resident. So essentially, if a campaign in New York City can raise $1 million, the city then gives you $8 million in order to be able to do whatever you want to do with the campaign. It's a weird program that they have. So Zohran Mamdani, at the very beginning of the NYC's mayor's race, he set a goal of raising $1 million. Guess what? The Mamdani campaign raised $1 million before any other Democratic candidate even got close, including Andrew Cuomo. And because they raised $1 million, they ended up getting the $8 million before any other candidate got access to that money. So even though Andrew Cuomo may have had higher amounts of donations, like he's getting like thousands and thousands of dollars, the NYC DSA was getting on average an $80 contribution. So they did all this through small donations, which means they had a lot more people supporting this campaign than Andrew Cuomo does. So Andrew Cuomo may have had more money out overall, and Andrew Cuomo outspent them, I think something like 4-1, or maybe it was even higher than that. But Andrew Cuomo's getting all his money through large donations from very rich people, whereas the NYC DSA is getting all their money from small donations from a massive amount of people. And when I say massive, they had over 20,000 individual donors. You look at this chart right here on the side. I know this is hard to see. Zohran Mamdani blew out every other person. Andrew Cuomo's this light blue box right here, 2,700 donors. Zohran Mamdani had 20,000 individual donors across New York City. Andrew Cuomo had 2,700. Does anyone want to guess how many the Republican candidate had? He's right here. He's this brown color. Less than 900 people voted or supported the Republican candidate with a donation during the primary battle. So, if you think that the DSA having a massive army of tens of thousands of volunteers, getting a massive amount of donations, having record high voter turnout, having skyrocketing voter registrations among their targeted demographics. If you think the machine that created all this is just going away, they're more energized than ever. And conservative retards like Sean have no effing idea. And this is the problem with the right. This is the problem with the right that I keep trying to explain to people, is you have morons and midwits like this that are lifted up, given the job of informing the public, and they have no clue why any of this is happening. And even worse than that, when you try to explain it to them, they go, excuse me, you are a manic lunatic. Oh, am I? Am I, Sean? Am I? Am I a manic lunatic, Sean? Am I a manic lunatic? Because I've got all this data from a secret meeting that I infiltrated that you have no fuck off idea about, you raging midwit moron. And all you have is, trust me, that bitch is literally crazy, and look at those typos. You want to know why Zohran Mamdani is going to win? Because the left is far more serious than the right will ever be. And until people fix that, until you stop listening to these retards, until you actually dig into the primary source evidence and you see what's actually going on, there is no way that we are ever going to beat the monster of the left, because this is the level of people that we have on our side. And they spend more time fighting people like me than they do the actual socialists. Andre, thank you for being a member of the channel for 4 months. Did you see a driver plowed into a crowd of 30 people in already communist LA as a civilian bystander shot the suspect driver? No, I didn't see that, Andre, but I will definitely look into that. That's crazy. Hey, Kazmar, goal! Thank you, Kazmar. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Look at that. We're a goal already. Now, I want everyone to know you can still send me more money. Don't think that just because we've hit that goal, you can still send me more money. It's totally fine. I don't mind. But it is always nice to hit the goal at the beginning of the stream. Is Zohran Mamdani a reformer or a revolutionary socialist? What a great question. So there are basically two types of socialists, and you'll never hear this from morons like Sean. There are basically two types of socialists. There are reformist socialists who believe in working within elections to gain political power, to make incremental changes over time that eventually leads to a post-capitalist society. There are also revolutionary socialists. Revolutionary socialists want to radically overthrow the United States government. They do not believe in elections. They do not believe in the electoral process. They think it's all a giant waste of time. Now, Zohran Mamdani absolutely has a lot of sympathies with the revolutionary socialists, but the mere fact that Zohran Mamdani is running in an election does mean that he's a reformer. That's not to say his goals are any different than the revolutionaries. Both reformers and revolutionaries do want to have a post-capitalist society. They have the same goal. They just have different ways of getting there. So overall, the revolutionaries are more dangerous because they do want to violently overthrow the government. The reformers are still dangerous, and they're still going to cause problems because they're going to do things like become the mayor of New York City and then implement all sorts of laws and policies that are going to just really screw things up. So it's not to say that they don't want the same goal, but they just have different ways of getting there. Zohran is absolutely a reformer because he's in the DSA, because he is running in elections. Revolutionaries almost... There might be a onesie or twosie occasion where revolutionaries will run in elections. It's because they're trying to recruit more people to their organization most of the time. Has nothing to do with them wanting to win. But very rarely will revolutionaries even bother with elections. They don't even vote. All right. So, does everyone understand why we are completely and totally effed by conservative influencers who don't want to pay attention to basic things like data and information and stuff like that? Does everyone get it? Good. Everyone on the same page. All right. That means we can start Socialism Saturday. So what we're going to do for the rest of the stream is we're going to listen to what real radical revolutionary socialists have to say about Zohran Mamdani. Before we get into that, I do want to remind people that if you want to support the work I'm doing, since I am like the only person doing this stuff on the internet, the only person giving you access to this level of information, no one else is going into these meetings like I am. No one else is spending time breaking it down, explaining it, telling you what all the language means. If you want to keep me in business, the best way to do so is to sign up for my Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. You, of course, can also send in a super chat. Thank you to everyone who has sent in a super chat so far. Also, in case you missed it, I did do an introductory class this week because people have been asking for an introductory class on the language of the far left. And so I did that. It is now available on demand. You can find it on my Substack. You can find it on my YouTube channel. You can find it on my Twitter. I probably should put it on Rumble too. I apologize that I didn't. It's just so many different places to upload. But as always, the very best place to find this information is on the Substack. This class is a little bit less than 2 hours long. It goes through all the major things that you need to know to be able to understand the left to include what is the left's definition of capitalism. It talks about why whiteness means capitalism. It talks about why capitalism created the gender binary. And it talks about why they want to abolish the nuclear family. And we go through probably about a dozen clips from different far left trainings because, of course, guys, you never have to take my word for any of this. If I say the left believes something, I have them on video saying it. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been going into leftist events and organizing meetings for a little over 4 years now. I have thousands of hours of this stuff, and I'm showing you the very best clips I have to demonstrate what the far left believes and what they teach each other in their own meetings. So you can find that over on the Substack. That is available on demand. You can also find that spy stream that I just walked you through all those images of. That is available on demand as well. And of course, we have lots of other great stuff over on the Substack. I've got archives of articles explaining leftist language, breaking it down, showing you inside their documents, all that good stuff. If you appreciate what I do, please sign up. $8 a month, $80 a year. You guys keep me in business. Now, we are going to be getting started with our videos, but we do have a helpful informational video to play before we get started. So we do have rules on Socialism Saturday because this is primarily a research stream and a class. You're walking into a classroom. You may think you're not in a class because it's on the internet and it's a Saturday. No, you're in a classroom. So please pay attention to this helpful informational video, and then we will get started. All right, for anyone that's new, we have some rules for Socialism Saturday. Let me go over them real quick. Socialism Saturday is a research group and a class. We do take this seriously. You're allowed to have fun. You're allowed to have a drink or two. You're allowed to kind of kick back and joke in the chat. However, I need everyone to understand that when we are researching the radical revolutionary left, we do take this seriously. And so if you're shitposting in my chat, I'm going to tell you to stop. If you are posting off topic in the chat, I'm going to ask you to stop at some point because it's going to be distracting to what we're doing. I need you to think of yourself as in a classroom. And I'm not talking about an online classroom. I'm talking about a real life classroom, okay? When you walk into a real life classroom, I am the teacher, you are the students. You are sitting in the desk, I am sitting in the front of the classroom. I'm standing there teaching you what is going on. If you were in a real life classroom, you wouldn't walk in, start throwing shit at the wall, yelling, saying, I disagree with you because my best friend said something different. That's not allowed. I don't care about your feelings. I'm not going to coddle your opinion. And that's going to be the way it is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But if you are in my classroom, you will respect my rules and you will listen to me. And if you do not do that, then you will be removed. And how you feel about being removed makes no difference to me at all. The expectation is if you're going to be here and you're going to be watching socialism with us and you're going to be participating in the chat, you are doing it because you are serious about learning this topic and understanding this topic. The minute that I think that you're just fucking around or you're trolling or something like that, you're going to get put in a timeout or permanently banned, and that's just going to be the way it is. Rule number 2, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because I am the queen fascist bitch of my YouTube channel. So I can say and do whatever I want. But if you don't insult me and you don't insult other people in the chat, we're not going to have a problem. So be an adult, rein that shit in. Number 3, no whining. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care if you feel personally attacked. It makes no difference to me at all. And I promise you, I care about your feelings a little bit more than the left does. So if you can't handle me, you can't handle the left. If you start whining and complaining because you don't like the rules or you think you're being treated unfairly, you can just leave, bro. There's the door. You don't have to be here. Number 4, listen. Our job here and why we do Socialism Saturday is to listen to what the left is saying, to listen to what real leftists are doing in the real world. This is not to support your confirmation bias. This is not to support any conservative bullshit narrative that you may have heard on Glenn Beck that one time. This is not to be what you want it to be. This is to engage with reality. We need to listen, we need to actively listen, and we need to understand the left better than they understand themselves. That is the purpose of this exercise, okay? As part of that, I do ask that people refrain from debunking. You do not have a single debunk in your arsenal about the left is stupid because of reasons X, Y, B, and Z, or the left is hypocrites for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. You don't have a single debunk that we haven't heard before, okay? And every time you put energy into debunking, that is energy that you're not putting into listening. So if I see you debunking, I'm going to tell you to stop because you need to put that energy into listening instead. Lastly, break the rules of my chat or disrespect me in any way, and I'll just kick you out, and that's the way it is. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming to Socialism Saturday. Please make sure you have mounted that like button. Please make sure you have subscribed to the channel on whatever platform you're watching on. If you have questions as we make our way through these presentations, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And let's get this party started. We are watching what the Denver Communists had to say. Should socialists support Zohran Mamdani?
Support Zohran Mamdani? No.
No.
Okay, now you can all leave.
No.
But seriously. So what I want to talk about first is that I think that electoral, which is to say bourgeois politics, tend to be counterposed to the politics of the working class and the oppressed.
Okay, so we're starting off with a bang because earlier I explained to you the difference between reformist socialist and revolutionary socialist, and now you're literally seeing it in action. Do you want to know why the Denver Communists, and I'm positive that this is what they're going to say, do you want to know why the Denver Communists don't believe that socialists should support Zohran Mamdani? It's because they do not believe that running in elections is actually a productive use of their time and energy, because the Denver Communists are revolutionary socialists, whereas Zohran Mamdani is just a regular old Democratic Socialist of America. He's a reformist. But let's listen to them explain, and probably they'll say exactly what I just said.
Should socialists support Zohran Mamdani? No. Okay, now you can all leave. But seriously. So what I want to talk about first is that I think that electoral, which is to say bourgeois politics, tend to be counterposed to the politics of the working class and the oppressed. And this is a quote from Marx's Capital Volume 1. He says in there, "Capital is dead labor that only lives vampire-like by sucking living labor." And I think we can see similarly, which is what I'm going to elaborate on in this talk, that elite or bourgeois politics can act to suck the life out of the politics of the working class, subalterns, or oppressed masses, to the point of weakening or even killing them. We've encountered this, of course, through the consistent problem throughout our movement's history of opportunism, reformism, and alliance with liberals, and which have all appeared in our movement.
Engaging in electoral politics is literally aligning with liberals, and it kills us. It kills us. It literally kills us to engage in electoral politics and align with the liberal bourgeoisie.
Tries to do electoral politics. This has been noted since the beginning of our movement. For example, in the very late 1890s, and then in the Second International, a leader of its French section, Alexandre Millerand, entered the French government as a commerce minister in a sort of maneuver to keep out the clerical far right. And Rosa Luxemburg assessed this experience a few years actually before writing her classic takedown of Edward Bernstein. She writes, "The government of the modern state is essentially an organization of class domination, the regular functioning of which is one of the conditions of existence of the class state. With the entry of a socialist into the government, class domination continuing to exist, the bourgeois government doesn't transform itself into a socialist government, but a socialist transforms himself into a bourgeois minister."
Okay, we need to talk about this. So this is Rosa Luxemburg. Rosa Luxemburg is one of their few women patron saints of socialism. And Rosa Luxemburg said, listen, if you are a socialist and you run in what they call bourgeois elections, bourgeois means the capitalist elections, the oppressor elections, the private property owners, all that stuff. If you run in bourgeois elections and you get elected to the bourgeois government, that doesn't mean the bourgeois government is going to become socialist. It means the socialists are going to become the bourgeois government. And if you guys don't believe me, there's people have been telling me the Revolutionary Communists of America just released a video this week completely dragging AOC and Bernie Sanders, because AOC and Bernie Sanders, who people think they're socialists, the left must love them. No. AOC and Bernie Sanders are considered to be bourgeois politicians. They are considered to be capitalist politicians. The far left does not love them at all. The far left shit talks them all the time. So let's listen again.
Edward Bernstein. She writes, "The government of the modern state is essentially an organization of class domination, the regular functioning of which is one of the conditions of existence of the class state. With the entry of a socialist into the government, class domination continuing to exist, the bourgeois government doesn't transform itself into a socialist government, but a socialist transforms himself into a bourgeois minister." Now, I wrote in my article, More Than a Ballot Line, from 2018 in the International Socialist Review, about how in the US, social democracy, that is to say reformist socialism, must confront the strict limitation of the political mainstream to two equally capitalist parties.
Two equally
One of
capitalist
which the
parties.
Democrats has, by posing as a defender of the interests of the working class and oppressed groups, repeatedly thwarted any prospect of their independent organization.
So the Democrats, so both the Republicans and the Democrats are capitalist parties, according to the socialists. But this is why I laugh every time a conservative says to me, "Karlyn, aren't the Democrats useful idiots of the far left? Don't the Democrats do what the far left wants?" No, not in any way. This is a revolutionary socialist telling you Democrats hinder our efforts by pretending they care about our values, but they don't really care about our values. And it's the Democrats that actually hold us back from being truly revolutionary organizations, even more so than the Republicans. Yes, Antifa is revolutionary. Elections, it would be more about proportional. It would be more about direct democracy. So essentially, elections would get rid of the presidency, they would get rid of the Senate, they would get rid of the Electoral College. You're going to have a much bigger House of Representatives style type of thing, but it's going to be like significantly larger than it is now. That's going to be basically the only form of government. So elections would still work based on the vote, but it's going to be the popular vote, not based on the Electoral College. Everyone gets a vote, everyone gets to participate, and then you have more of a direct representative election. And because you have more representatives overall, the premise is that they're going to be closer to the people in the community. And socialists also have a way of working through conflict and trying to come together and compromise with people and stuff like that. They have all sorts of processes for doing this. So, yeah. Do you think if socialists got their utopia tomorrow, they would still maintain their stance on things like climate and transgendered? Yes. Yes, they absolutely would. That would not change because, well, I mean, the whole point is socialists think that if they get their Marxist utopia, climate change is going to be able to be turned around because they believe that capitalism has caused all climate change. And so if you get rid of capitalism, you're going to be able to make decisions that are more in line with doing what you need to do to quote unquote solve climate change. And the profit margin will no longer be an influence on it. So that would definitely say transgenderism. Yeah, 100%. They believe that people should be able to do whatever they want to do with their body. More kids would be being transed because they believe that kids can make those decisions too. So no, those would all still stay 100%. Anyway, listen to him talk about this.
To two equally capitalist parties, one of which, the Democrats, has, by posing as a defender of the interests of the working class and oppressed groups, repeatedly thwarted any prospect of their independent organization. U.S. Social Democrats, since the 1930s, have sought to maneuver inside the Democratic Party and try to make them an approximation of a European-style social democratic party. This is referred to as the strategy of realignment, or in more recent times, to run a so-called electoral guerrilla war, which will implode the two-party system. This is the tactic referred to as the dirty break. Now, my point here in evoking this history is that in contrast to Europe and European comrades who have faced left-wing, what would legitimately be called left-wing reformism, for example, in the cases of Syriza in Greece and Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of the Labour Party until 2019, we in America, in the United States, do not face left-wing social democracy. Instead, we face right-wing social democracy, which is dependent on liberalism, has an anemic reformist policy, and sees its future within the Democratic Party.
We in America don't face left-wing social democracy. We have to deal with right-wing social democracy, which is liberal and based in the Democratic Party. Did everyone just hear that? The communist is saying our biggest adversary is right-wing social democracy with the liberals in the Democratic Party. Again.
And Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of the Labor Party until 2019, we in America, in the United States, do not face left-wing social democracy. Instead, we face right-wing social democracy, which is dependent on liberalism, has an anemic reformist policy, and sees its future within the Democratic Party. This is why the proponents of the dirty break tactic, including Eric Blanc, who coined the phrase, quickly retreated from this position to one basically equivalent to the position of realignment. In that same article, I pointed out a dynamic of diminishing returns. In the US and elsewhere, reformist socialism, as I wrote, becomes more cautious with each new iteration. We see this in the stage of the Communist Party of the United States in the 1930s and 40s that sought to build socialism through an alliance with liberals evolving somehow into a classless society. A step down from that during the 60s when ex-revolutionaries Max Schachtman and Bayard Rustin started their maneuvers inside the Democratic Party to try to transform it, like I said, into a European-style social democracy, but without the goal of socialism. Finally, around the time of Bernie's first and second campaigns, we got the initiative of the ballot line, or dirty breakers.
Oh, really? Oh, really? You've arranged the deal and have the screenshot. Can you DM me that screenshot, Marty? You are welcome to DM it to me anytime. And I'm gonna say I'm fucking done with his bullshit. Like, I'm gonna say this for people who don't know. Okay, we're taking a break for 2 seconds because Big Tech has sent an emissary over here to talk about something that I don't really give a fuck about right now. I am done with Big Tech's bullshit. I am fucking done with it. He could have just unblocked me, just very quietly, just left it alone. Just like, how nice would it have been after there was just kind of like a nice exchange and everyone had a good time? He could have just quietly unblocked me and have just let it all go. Okay, well, he blocked me on Twitter, so he can tag me all he wants. It's not going to show up in my feed because he fucking blocked me on Twitter. So I will pull up his Twitter. And so if he wants to say, but I am done with his fucking bullshit. The game is done. I'm so fucking sick of this. So he wants to be at war. He wants to continue to fight with me. He wants to continue to perpetuate this for no good fuck off reason. Then he can fuck off, and I will say and do whatever I want to on the internet. And that can be the way it goes. So I will look for his Twitter account for that, Marty. But honestly, like, I'm even less inclined to play his bullshit game today than I was yesterday. So no.
Rather than trying to transform the party.
Thank you, Andre, in with the Karlyn is right super chat. I was wrong and Karlyn was right. It's not crazy. Yeah. Told ya. Thank you, Andre, for your support. I do appreciate it.
Much less move to socialism, seek to split off a minority of progressive Democrats and their followers to form eventually a left populist party, I would say. And I would argue this is the outcome of social democracy's reliance on the electoral process as the sole avenue for change. Stephen Salaita, the prominent Palestinian American activist and academic, writes, "Electoralism is salted against insurgency. It's not a space for ideas, for creativity, for the simple decency of not asking the least powerful among us to defer their freedom. It's hostile to anything that impedes the reproduction of orthodoxy." He goes on, "Left electoralism diminishes socialism. By emphasizing celebrity, it cultivates an assemblage of ruling class stooges in leftist cover."
I mean, come on, guys. Again.
hostile to anything that impedes the reproduction of orthodoxy. He goes on, left electoralism diminishes socialism. By emphasizing celebrity, it cultivates an assemblage of ruling class stooges in leftist cover.
Leftist electoralism diminishes socialism by emphasizing celebrity because you have to appeal to everyone, and that cultivates an assemblage of ruling class stooges under leftist cover.
In contrast, the politics I propose, and I think that Firebrand shares, and the Denver communists, of course, share for the foreseeable future, is a politics of what I'm going to call for the moment electoral nihilism. This is a politics hostile to elections and electoralism, and particularly to the Democratic Party. This is a politics that realizes our main opportunities are not in the electoral sphere. In fact, the US electoral process limits us. And I call it electoral nihilism because say what you want to about the tenets of an international socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos.
So the socialists are now embracing full electoral nihilism, specifically in response to the Democratic Party, not in response to the Republican Party, in response to the Democratic Party. Listen again.
In contrast, the politics I propose, and I think that Firebrand shares, and the Denver communists, of course, share for the foreseeable future, is a politics of what I'm going to call for the moment electoral nihilism. This is a politics hostile to elections and electoralism, and particularly to the Democratic Party. This is a politics that realizes our main opportunities are not in the electoral sphere. In fact, the US electoral process limits us. And I call it electoral nihilism because say what you want to about the tenets of an international socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos. Okay, so I think what I just talked about, the classical Marxist understanding of elections, as well as the history of the US left's experiments with the Democratic Party, is very important to hold on to. If you don't have this, you can end up saying things like, as I heard a DSA member say at the Socialism 2025 conference barely a week ago, the Mamdani campaign, as he said, is the best thing the US left has done in the last century. So yeah, the last century, not the Scottsboro Boys campaign, not the free speech movement, not the Black Panthers, a mayoral campaign. That's the best thing we've done.
He's so incredulous about it. Marty, can you DM that to me, please? Because I don't even know what your Twitter account is, or put your Twitter account in the chat or DM it to me, either way, but I don't believe you.
And I think this is really a sign, right, of how elections, as Socialism says, limits how we imagine both our past and our future. Now, it's also worth pointing out that this attitude was kind of appeared at the beginning of our movement as well. Frederick Engels wrote after the revolutions of 1848, talking about radical representatives who had been elected to the parliaments of various German states. As he says, they had, from the beginning of their legislative career, been more imbued than any other faction of the assembly with that incurable malady of parliamentary cretinism, a disorder which penetrates its unfortunate victims with the solemn conviction that the whole world, its history and future, are governed and determined by a majority of votes in that particular representative body, which has the honor to.
Marty, I don't have any with my name in it, so DM it to me, or put the or tell me what your screen name is that you tweeted it from. I'm not fucking around. Don't fuck up my fucking stream if you're just fucking around. If you actually have screenshots, DM it to me or tell him to fucking tweet them.
To count them among its members. Now let's look at Zohran Mamdani himself. So his three main proposals,
not in my notification, so
as
no,
people
it's
probably know, are a citywide rent freeze, at least on applicable apartments,
literally
applicable
not
incomes. Second, citywide city-owned grocery stores and free buses. Now, the rent freeze, I'd say, has been, very justifiably welcomed by working class New Yorkers. I think it's this factor alone which probably won him the nomination. And it's worth pointing out, as mayor, Mamdani, should he pursue this, could actually do this on his own. But as our comrade B.C. Hamilton of Tempest wrote, his other reforms, the grocery stores, the free buses, and so on, are rather small bore.
All right. So Marty, okay, so I do see the DM. Marty, okay, so basically what's happening. Okay, we're going to go back and listen to this. Guys, I'm sorry that Socialism Saturday is being disrupted by this, but I'm having to deal with a retarded child on the internet. And I'm not even talking about Marty in this case. I'm talking about big tech. So I'm sick of big tech shit. I'm fucking fed up with it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Marty is trying to negotiate a truce. And so Marty has now DM'd me a screenshot of a DM that he had with big tech. It says, I guess you can think about it. I was negotiating when she was live, but she's not live. Marty, you need to send me all the screenshots because, like, this doesn't even say the deal in it. So do you agree that that's a deal? Oh, I guess it does. Never mind. So do you agree for her to watch the video on the Scream React for an unblock? I think I need to close this deal today. Yeah, good deal. You know what, Marty? Here's the thing. That offer was yesterday. And I am now significantly more pissed off at him now than I was yesterday. And so I am certainly not watching that video during my Socialism Saturday stream. That is not happening in any way. I will consider this, but you know what, Marty? Tell him to tweet it. Tell him to tweet it. Tell him to put it on his fucking timeline saying, I will unblock Karlyn if she watches this on stream. And that is now the fucking deal. Because I'm not dicking around with this anymore. He told me the other day on stream to apologize to him. I apologized to him 3 fucking times on that stream. And I apologized to him privately. And I apologized publicly again. Just to make sure that there was no fuck off mistake that I had apologized to him. And he still didn't unblock me and he still kicked me out of the space. And I still wasn't fucking unblocked yesterday. And he already just should have fucking done it. And now I'm significantly more pissed off than I was the other day. And so now he can fucking tweet it if he wants to solve this issue. Sorry for the interruption. Back to this.
Apartments and applicable incomes. Second, city-owned grocery stores and free buses. Now, the rent freeze, I'd say, has been, very justifiably welcomed by working class New Yorkers. I think it's this factor alone which probably won him the nomination. And it's worth pointing out, as mayor, Mamdani, should he pursue this, could actually do this on his own. But as our comrade B.C. Hamilton of Tempest wrote, his other reforms, the grocery stores, the free buses, and so on, are rather small bore. Furthermore, they require ratification by the state government in Albany for a tax increase. And of course, the state government in Albany is run by neoliberal Democrats hostile to Mamdani and his program. But I want to point out that even genuine reforms such as the rent freeze do not have a proletarian class character when it's a bourgeois politician implementing them outside of struggle. We achieve reforms through combat with the government and with capital, building our independent forces, as Rosa Luxemburg said. Looking to elect Mamdani to deliver us a rent freeze is liberal right-wing reformism. As our comrade Charlie Post from Temple...
Electing Mamdani to deliver us a rent freeze is liberal right-wing reformism. He's literally not out picking origins. He's fucking tweeting. I can look at his timeline. Again.
And with capital, building our independent forces, as Rosa Luxemburg said. Looking to elect Mamdani to deliver us a rent freeze is liberal right-wing reformism. As our comrade Charlie Post also from Tempest has recently said, this difference between revolutionaries and reformists can be expressed tactically. Whereas revolutionaries focus on the strike, the riot, and on disrupting the accumulation of capital to achieve reforms, reformists look first and foremost to vote, campaign, and lobby.
So that's one of the most succinct definitions that I've ever heard a socialist give about the difference between the revolutionaries and the reformists. And I want, again, everyone to pay attention to this. We've already talked about this several times on this stream, but he's saying it so clearly. There is no clearer explanation we're going to get. So as a reminder, this is the Denver Communists. The Denver Communists are part of something called the Firebrand Collective. The Firebrand Collective is a decentralized group of revolutionary socialists all over the country where they have educational classes that they all go to. They have meetings. There's like the Boston Revolutionary Socialists and the Seattle Revolutionary Socialists. I think there's Revolutionary Socialists in New York City. I'm pretty sure they've got a couple in California. These obviously are in Denver. It's kind of headquarters in Denver. There's another collective that you heard mentioned in this, which is the Tempest Collective. The Tempest Collective is also a loosely decentralized group of revolutionary socialists all over the country. We've watched the Tempest Collective in Vermont on several occasions. They primarily are organizing out of UVM. I've seen Tempest Collective members from the University of Arizona. When I was at the Socialism Conference, every time a member of the Tempest Collective got up to say anything, they'd go, "I'm such and such, I'm with the Tempest Collective." So you knew how many people there were. Just because these groups are both revolutionary socialists doesn't mean they always work together, but sometimes they do. So the Firebrand Collective is a different group than the Tempest Collective, but they have a lot of the same ideas. And all of these socialists are extremely revolutionary in that they overtly advocate for the complete, just like not being involved in electoral politics at all. They don't want to be involved in it. They don't think that electoral politics is going to change anything. The only thing they think is going to change anything is the violent overthrow of the capitalist bourgeois government and the capitalist bourgeois constitution. So when he's quoting someone from the Tempest Collective, and you can find this on the Tempest Collective's website, they literally have it in their statement of values. They do not participate in elections, and they advocate for the revolutionary overthrow of the current system. And so that's who you're hearing talk about the difference between revolutionaries and reformers. When revolutionaries look at people like Zohran Mamdani, they don't see a socialist, they see a right-wing liberal. Listen.
Independent forces, as Rosa Luxemburg said. Looking to elect Mamdani to deliver us a rent freeze is liberal right-wing reformism. As our comrade Charlie Post, also from Tempest, has recently said, this difference between revolutionaries and reformists can be expressed tactically. Whereas revolutionaries focus on the strike, the riot, and on disrupting the accumulation of capital to achieve reforms, reformists look first and foremost to vote, campaign, and lobby. As a result, we've observed a definite rightward moving dynamic from the campaigns of Bernie Sanders to those of AOC and the Squad to now Brandon Johnson, who I'm going to talk about, and Zohran Mamdani.
So according to the revolutionary socialists, Bernie Sanders is now on the right. AOC is now on the right. Brandon Johnson, who is the socialist mayor of Chicago, is now on the right. And guess what? Zohran Mamdani is also on the right because they are engaging in liberal bourgeois politics. Yes, that is exactly right. And this is why, guys, it's so absurd every time I hear a conservative say Democrats are socialists, because you're listening to actual socialists saying, no, all of these DSA types that are participating in elections, they're basically right-wingers. They don't see any difference between them and the Democrats and the conservatives. They literally see them as all part of the same machine, which is part of the bourgeois apparatus.
Liberals will not enact these.
Hang on. We got to go back.
First and foremost to vote, campaign, and lobby. As a result, we've observed a definite rightward moving dynamic from the campaigns of Bernie Sanders to those of AOC and the Squad to now Brandon Johnson, who I'm going to talk about, and Zohran Mamdani. Since liberals will not enact these policies, which would be their bread and butter, or what it would have been in a previous period, so-called democratic socialist politics run as Democrats, promising these basic reforms. Then in turn, radicals and revolutionaries move into the space that they vacated to pressure them or hold their feet to the fire as a loyal opposition. So this brings up the question, which was asked a lot at Socialism 2025. Will Mamdani sell out? The most common response that I encountered from this, at least at the conference, is that it was to sort of dodge the question. That instead of, regardless of whether he sells out or stays true, what we need to focus on is convincing his supporters to build the movements outside the electoral space to win the reforms he's proposed. Expressed differently, as one Tempest comrade said, we have to build people's self-confidence. Now, I agree that we need to build the self-confidence of the working class and oppressed masses, but doing that will not come from voting for a Democrat. I think this is a tactical error, and that we should say, rather than dodging the question, that Mamdani has already sold out by running as a Democrat in the first place.
Mamdani has already sold out by running as a Democrat in the first place. The question is not, will Mamdani sell out? He's already sold out by even participating at all. I love it. I love it when they say the quiet part out loud. It's so glorious. Listen.
But doing that will not come from voting for a Democrat. I think this is a tactical error, and that we should say, rather than dodging the question, that Mamdani has already sold out by running as a Democrat in the first place. I wrote again in my More Than a Ballot Line article, the Democratic ballot line, rather than being an empty vessel to be filled with socialist content, represents, as Kim Moody rightly argues, the entry point into the maze of dead ends, false starts, and compromised hopes that is the Democratic Party. So what about Mamdani's prospects? First off, I want to point out that he could still face defeat in the general election by Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo. I don't think it's likely, and the ruling class apparently find Mamdani so dangerous, incorrectly, again, in my opinion, that they want a unity candidate to defeat him. Important to note. But let's get back to how he will implement his reforms, such as the free buses and public grocery stores, which require a tax hike and therefore the sign-off of the state government. Our comrade Tyler Zemmer on his Substack has written, city government is severely limited by state law in terms of what it can do to democratically govern its own affairs. Since the financial crisis of the 1970s and the power grab by big business that followed its resolution.
I'm pretty sure I told you in my comments earlier that you didn't know what the fuck you were talking about, and you told me I'm 64 years old and I've listened to 1,200 hours of your content. If you come in here and you think that that Democrats and socialists are the same thing, that real revolutionary socialists view him as a good thing, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you have not watched 1,200 hours of my content. So your job right now is to be quiet and to listen and to learn. And I don't care if you're older than me, and I don't care if you claim to have watched my content, because I don't actually think you ever have. Now's the time to learn.
New York City has been in what Alexander Zevin describes as a kind of eternal receivership, firmly under the thumb of Albany. So, therefore, should he become mayor, once he becomes mayor, Zohran Mamdani will face the choice whether to become a friendly, neutered progressive, which is, of course, the route traveled by Bernie Sanders, AOC, and most of the squad, or to pursue his program against the opposition of both Albany and Trump in Washington. I'd like to hear from what people think about this in discussion, actually, but I think it's pretty likely, given past experience, that he will choose to become a friendly, neutered Democratic Party progressive.
There it is.
Therefore, I'm going to proceed on the assumption that, as I said, he has already sold out or will shortly sell out, however you want to put it. Now, comrades who have more of what I would call a wait and see approach to Mamdani's candidacy
Thanks,
have
Jacker.
been bothered by this and have proposed two ways to stop it. The first is to call on Mamdani as a movement candidate to explain to his supporters that he won't have enough power as mayor to push his program through, that they, his supporters, need to organize to help him get the reforms that they both want. I think this is a dangerous misunderstanding of the electoral process. I mean that a candidate like Mamdani isn't going to disappoint the left, who are his supporters, by saying they won't have any power. He wants more support from the right and liberals, not to lose support in what's his base already.
Really?
The second kind of way that comrades have proposed to address the problem of Mamdani selling out is to form so-called structures of accountability. One unaffiliated
They're gonna
comrade
struggle
put it to
session
me
him?
like this on social media.
I love it.
She says, "For me, if I was in New York City, I would argue that our work begins now, that is, after the victory, to build infrastructures of accountability. Even simple neighborhood committees will do to start with, to both defend Mamdani from the right and push him to not sell out." Now, this idea of structures of accountability for left-wing Democrats is not without precedent. After Sanders' 2016 campaign, Our Revolution, his organization, appeared to many radicals who had worked on his campaign as a way to keep pressure on Bernie and his allies to fight. Instead, it became a traditional Democratic 503c4 fundraising operation. And I think we also need to consider the situation on the ground in New York. There's a Tempest comrade of ours who actually voted for Zohran Mamdani and organizes with JVP.
Wow.
Who writes,
Jewish Voice for Peace.
"I'm close with many comrades in DSA and JVP, that is Jewish Voice for Peace, actively involved in Mamdani's campaign. And there is zero discussion about what, how, and whether to build the infrastructures of dissent needed to actually win the things Zohran is talking about. Outside of far leftists like myself raising these issues, which are often met with abstract agreement, there's zero talk of planning and building beyond electoral work."
Wow.
Now, I think it's fair to say that if the people who are most interested in doing this on the left wing of Zohran Mamdani's campaign can only abstractly agree, it ain't happening. And I think, again, this is an outcome of how the electoral process tends to short circuit the critical thinking of most people, including of radicals. These two flawed plans to hold Mamdani accountable, that conceive of him as an ally of the left who we have to keep on our side, have emerged in response to a fundamental problem, and it is a real one. This is the problem of how to relate to the enthusiasm of Mamdani's supporters without sounding aloof or being so-called ultra-leftists. Since 2015, when Bernie announced his first campaign, the US left has been unable to resolve this problem. The most common route out of it is for us to end up suspending our criticism and ride along, thinking we'll be able to criticize down the road. But I would argue that the Democratic Party cannot be ignored at any stage, and that delaying the criticism has led in most cases to suspending it altogether. I would argue further that Mamdani is not our ally. He is a successful competitor for our audience, seeking to implement nationwide a strategy that we recognize has again and again led to disaster. He has offered to become our enemy.
Wait, who is saying this? Is this him or is this someone he's quoting? Sorry, I have to go back.
That conceive of him as an ally of the left who we have to keep on our side, have emerged in response to a fundamental.
Yeah, my husband is trying to shut the dog up. I don't know what the dog is. What the dog's damage is.
It ain't happening. And I think, again, this is an outcome of how the electoral process tends to short circuit the critical thinking of most people, including of radicals. These two flawed plans to hold Mamdani accountable, that conceive of him as an ally of the left who we have to keep on our side, have emerged in response to a fundamental problem, and it is a real one.
They're flat out saying, guys, that not only do they not agree with voting for him, he's not even one of their allies. The real revolutionary socialists don't even consider him to be like tangentially related to them.
This is the problem of how to relate to the enthusiasm of Mamdani's supporters without sounding aloof or being so-called ultra-leftists. Since 2015, when Bernie announced his first campaign, the US left has been unable to resolve this problem. The most common route out of it is for us to end up suspending our criticism and ride along, thinking we'll be able to criticize down the road. But I would argue that the Democratic Party cannot be ignored at any stage, and that delaying the criticism has led in most cases to suspending it altogether. I would argue further that Mamdani is not our ally. He is a successful competitor for our audience, seeking to implement nationwide a strategy that we recognize has again and again led to disaster. He has offered to become our enemy by running as a Democrat for executive office. We must focus on
he not only is he not our ally, but he offered to become our enemy by running as a Democrat for executive office. Wow. He is a successful competitor.
Has led in most cases to suspending it altogether. I would argue further that Mamdani is not our ally. He is a successful competitor for our audience, seeking to implement nationwide a strategy that we recognize has again and again led to disaster. He has offered to become our enemy by running as a Democrat for executive office. We must focus on defending ourselves and our movements against the two-party establishment that he will shortly become
Hey, thank you
part
for
of.
the Cash App. I appreciate it for $15.
Now, the success of Mamdani's campaign, as I argued in More Than a Ballot Line, is true for reformism in general, strengthens the argument not for opportunistic use of the Democratic ballot line to build a social democratic current, but ipso facto for broader and more extensive entanglement in the Democratic Party. Zohran Mamdani himself has proposed his campaign as a national model for local races. To quote our comrade Kenneth G. from Firebrand, the real function of politicians like Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, Johnson, and Mamdani is to confuse and disarm the left. They give the impression that change is possible within the Democratic Party. They provide political cover for the horrible policies of their more openly conservative colleagues, even when that policy is genocide. Most importantly, they divert attention and resources away from efforts to found an independent party, which could actually threaten the status quo.
So again, real socialists, real communists do not support AOC. They do not support Bernie Sanders. They don't even support Brandon Johnson, the socialist mayor of Chicago, and they don't support Zohran Mamdani because they see them all part of the enemy party within the bourgeois system.
Our comrade Kenneth G. from Firebrand. The real function of politicians like Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, Johnson, and Mamdani is to confuse and disarm the left. They give the impression that change is possible within the Democratic Party. They provide political cover for the horrible policies of their more openly conservative colleagues, even when that policy is genocide. Most importantly, they divert attention and resources away from efforts to found an independent party, which could actually threaten the status quo.
Again, so Eric, thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. Let me add it to the total here so I don't forget to do math later. If no one is good enough for them, what do they plan to do if some in their group, a real socialist like the guy talking, wins? Again, so Eric, the guy talking is never going to participate in elections. He is never going to run for office. He is never going to participate in elections. They don't believe that elections are the answer to their problems. Real radical revolutionary socialists want to violently overthrow the federal government. I have the Denver communists specifically on video talking about violently overthrowing the federal government. They believe that is literally the only solution to the problem, is creating revolutionary organizations, infiltrating the military, making sure they get all their chess pieces in order, and then overthrowing the federal government. This is why I always say the Civil War is not going to be Democrat versus Republican. It's not going to be red versus blue. It's going to be radical revolutionary socialist versus the federal government. They don't believe in elections. That's the difference between real socialists and real communists and Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani is a reformer. These are revolutionaries. They both want a post-capitalist world, but the revolutionaries think Zohran Mamdani is basically their enemy for trying to achieve a post-capitalist world within the electoral system. Hope that helps. Thanks for the super chat.
So, way of summing up, I don't think you can hold a Democrat candidate accountable after the election. The process seems to be rather that radicals will get mesmerized and campaign for the Democrat, and then once that person is in office,
Okay, Eric has clarified with another $5 super chat. I don't mean to win an election just to gain power. Again, Eric, their explicit goal, their only goal, their forever goal is the violent overthrow of the bourgeois capitalist government and the abolition of the bourgeois capitalist constitution. They do not believe that they will achieve Marxism until the current iteration of the United States is gone. By the way, they also don't believe in borders. So they don't believe in borders around the country. They don't believe in borders around the states. They don't believe in borders around the city. So very literally, when socialists take power, there will be no United States because there will be no states because they don't believe in borders. So violent overthrow of the government. Final answer. Thank you for the money. Appreciate it.
Tempest comrades Andy Cernatinger and Emma Wild-Baltha state, they tell us, the Democrats, tell us, they're referring to DSA specifically here, what our positions would be, as Bernie and AOC did with DSA in the case of Palestine. Now, turning to another point, there is, I think, a very important example in our recent history that has a lot in common with Mamdani and can offer us a lot of lessons. I'm speaking of Brandon Johnson's campaign for mayor of Chicago and the involvement of the Chicago Teachers Union and the left in it. This is from in late 2023, of course, for people outside the US. So Brandon Johnson is a former Chicago teacher, a former CTU staff organizer, and he held office from 2018 as a Cook County commissioner, and specifically as a Democrat. The CTU, which is one of the most militant and probably most successful U.S. unions in the current labor movement,
yeah, true,
under the leadership of its reform-oriented caucus of rank and file educators, or CORE, since 2015 has had the strategy of winning space for its union and the labor movement in general within the local Democratic Party. The mayoral race was, of course, an outcome of this strategy. Johnson was praised in radical circles even before he became mayor as a charismatic individual, a great trade unionist, and a generally sincere guy, much like how Mamdani has been praised as a talented and effective communicator. Many leftists in Chicago argued at the time that the Johnson campaign, despite being in and of the Democratic Party, was an opportunity for the Chicago left to break into doing working class politics on a mass scale. As one Chicago teacher and Tempest comrade argued at the time, quote, "The dynamic in Chicago is unique, resting on the particular agent's legacy of class struggle and social justice unionism led by the CTU, and its intimate links to the liberatory thread of radical Black politics. Particularly," as she went on, "the campaign was hosting discussions about the need for a party of our own that revolutionaries had to intervene in, lest we risk becoming irrelevant." Now, Johnson, like Mamdani, ran against an establishment candidate. The effects of the George Floyd rebellion and police brutality cases in Chicago had made the elite of the Democrat, including the Democratic Party, determined to make the Chicago mayor's race a referendum on the conduct of the Chicago Police Department. To do this, they chose Paul Vallas, who's actually a Republican, to run in the Democratic primary against Johnson. And of course, Johnson was victorious. In his victory, CTU backing was decisive. The CTU, along with its parent organizations, the Illinois Federation of Teachers and the AFT, put $2.3 million
is part of the
into
AFT.
his
I thought they were part of
campaign.
the NEA.
Furthermore, the CTU founded United Working Families Organization, or UWF, a membership organization that had support of certain other.
So, okay, so this is kind of an interesting question. What does Black politics mean to socialists? So there is a huge contingent of Black socialists. From my perspective, and this is just my opinion, other people might disagree with me. From my perspective, Black socialists are usually kind of like some of the least concerning socialists, because Black socialists tend to actually be focused on problems in their communities in like a real way, because their communities actually have problems, and that's why they became socialists in the first place. It's actually kind of weird to me to watch Black socialists versus white socialists when I'm at socialist events, because the white socialists almost always want to use the Black socialists, and the white socialists believe that by rights and privileges, all Black people should be socialists because all Black people come out of the lineage of slavery and are therefore oppressed part of the proletarian. And so they get really pissed off when when Black people start businesses or Black people become wealthy or things like that. They consider them not to be real socialists. You even hear them talking about Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson is very Black. He's the mayor of Chicago. And so they don't consider him to be an ally or a comrade. They consider him to be an enemy because he's working within the bourgeois system. But when it comes to like Black politics, white socialists want to use it, but like Black socialists, I'm usually honestly not that worried about them, because Black socialists are just trying to do things like make the schools better for their kids and make sure people have enough money to eat and make sure people have housing and things like that. Don't get me wrong, Black socialists do want to overthrow capitalism, but they just tend to be much more like focused on actual problems than white socialists are. And it's the white socialists almost always who are talking about the radical overthrow of the federal government. I hope that makes sense. It's honestly why we don't pay a lot of attention to like Black politics on this channel, just because usually it's honestly really not that interesting. Hey, thank you, Drew the Dog, for being a member of the channel for 9 months. Cheers, Doc. Love what you're doing. People should take note. He just referred to it, the George Floyd Rebellion. Yes, they do call it the George Floyd Rebellion or the George Floyd Uprising. They don't call it the Black Lives Matter riots. So they are trying to frame it in terms of like a very martyrdom thing. Sean Farash is a spiritual boomer and does a weekly podcast with a Misfit Patriot. Yeah, this is why like they're so retarded. They're so stupid. I cannot get over the amount of stupidity on Twitter on any given day. All right, guys, we are working our way through a video by the Denver Communists talking about what they think of Zohran Mamdani. When we're done watching this, we are going to be watching a video from the Revolutionary Communists of America. This is a completely different group about what they think about Zohran Mamdani. This is Socialism Saturday. If you appreciate what we're doing, please make sure you mount the like button for me. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Send in a super chat. Join the Substack if you want to support the work I'm doing. Let's keep going.
Unions to run independent working class and POC candidates also poured its efforts into Johnson's campaign. I think UWF's record is actually a really good chance to assess how accountability could be enforced on candidates like Mamdani, and to reckon with the appearance, even on a city level, of an independent working class electoral force in the United States. Unfortunately, the record of UWF doesn't seem to be very positive. After Johnson's election, our Tempest comrade Brian Bean wrote, "Many, but not all UWF candidates hold Democratic Party committee man positions within the structure of the Cook County Democratic Party. This is despite the fact that UWF members, when the organization was formed, had been mostly hostile to the idea of working within the Democrats. When Brandon Johnson became mayor, many of the UWF activists who helped him win were incorporated into his administration. UWF is significantly less active today, and the Chicago left, and by extension, the CTU, is weaker, at least according to the accounts I've read. Johnson, even before becoming mayor, quickly distanced himself from Black Lives Matter, saying, quote, "I said defunding the police was a slogan. I never said it was my slogan." He also committed to hiring 200 more detectives. And he supported, of course, Joe Biden's administration at the time, which he argued had, quote, delivered for working families. On Palestine, Johnson has held the position of a mainstream Democrat. As he said before he won office, any speech or effort to delegitimize Israel and its right to exist, that's how I view anti-Semitism. After October 8th, he played an instrumental role in ramming a...
Oh my God. Oh. Brandon Johnson says anti-Semitism is anything that delegitimizes Israel. Wow. No wonder the far left hates him. That's crazy.
On Palestine, Johnson has held the position of a mainstream Democrat. As he said before he won office, any speech or effort to delegitimize Israel and its right to exist, that's how I view anti-Semitism. After October 8th, he played an instrumental role in ramming a pro-Israel resolution through city council by having Palestine demonstrators tossed from the chamber. As Joe Allen, writing for Tempest, says, this resolution helped set the tone for a wave of racist violence against Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims in the US, particularly the murder of 6-year-old Palestinian-American child Wadea al-Fayoum. This was in Plainfield, a suburb of Chicago, by his family's landlord. The landlord shouted, "You Muslims must die," as he choked Wadea's mother before stabbing Wadea dozens of times and killing him. Finally, Johnson brought the DNC, or the Democratic Convention, to Chicago in 2024 and brokered a no strike pledge for its duration, which included the CTU. As demonstrators outside the convention hall recited the names of children in Gaza killed by the IDF, his police department beat them up, and conference delegates walking by closed their ears. Now, in contrast to Brandon Johnson, Mamdani has so far been a forthright advocate for Palestine. New York City's ruling class chose the sexual predator and nursing home murderer Andrew Cuomo to pitch the mayor's race as a referendum on Zionism in Israel. And again, like in Johnson's case, they lost. Mamdani is very much a child of the Palestine movement and moment. But let's look again at the recent record of US Democrat reformists and social democrats on Palestine. And I'm referring especially here to Bernie Sanders.
Oh God, they're about
Sanders,
to lay Bernie out.
Most people in this room know, is a liberal Zionist, especially those of us who organized around Palestine from 2015 until October 8th, know about the reverential attitude that many people, including Palestinian Americans in the movement, had towards him, regardless of this. Steve Salaita wrote, Sanders' Zionism wasn't lost on his Palestinian American champions. It just didn't bother them. As he goes on, electioneering requires compromise, but compromise isn't a neutral practice. The people are made to sacrifice for the affluent. That's how compromise works under capitalism. Every time, every single time, it's some aspect of Palestinian freedom that must be compromised, never the candidate's position, never the system's inherent conservatism, never the ongoing march of settler colonization. After Palestinian militants launched the heroic Operation Al-Aqsa Flood on October 8th to change the game of the occupation and drawing a line in the sand against Israel's slow annihilation of their people, Bernie cheered on the IDF's invasion of Gaza. This, fortunately, exposed him to the movement, and he hasn't been able, at least not yet, to build back his reputation. Sanders' record demonstrates how soft Zionism and the two-state solution, which is Zionism, is the most radical stance that will ever be acceptable to the Democratic Party. Zohran Mamdani, as mayor in particular, can't do anything for Palestine. At least I don't think he can. I'd be willing to hear corrections on this as a mayor. And I would argue that this makes him potentially more dangerous to the movement than Sanders, because he represents a permeationist approach for radicals at the level of local democratic politics, where the power is so limited and the maze is potentially endless. The Palestine movement in this country will thus face a sharp choice. Now, I want to quote Salida again, because he's really the best and absolutely no bullshit on this question. He writes, Palestine has its own vocabularies of freedom worth forcing into the American conversation. It cannot be reduced to electoralism in the Democratic Party or anywhere else. Anti-Zionism isn't simply a politics. It is a sensibility, an attitude, a worldview. It is a refusal to accept any society predicated on suffering and displacement. It detests the ruling class. It rejects the misery presented as natural under capitalism. And it honors those old revolutionary devotions. Fuck Israel, fuck landlords, fuck civility, and fuck the police.
Ah!
Now, I've spent a lot...
What is that from? What was that from? Who wrote that? Again?
Approach for radicals at the level of local democratic politics, where the power is so limited and the maze is potentially endless. The Palestine movement in this country will thus face a sharp choice. Now, I want to quote Salida again, because he's really the best and absolutely no bullshit on this question. He writes, Palestine has its own vocabularies of freedom worth forcing into the American conversation. It cannot be reduced to electoralism in the Democratic Party or anywhere else. Anti-Zionism isn't simply a politics. It is a sensibility, an attitude, a worldview. It is a refusal to accept any society predicated on suffering and displacement. It detests the ruling class. It rejects the misery presented as natural under capitalism. And it honors those old revolutionary devotions. Fuck Israel, fuck landlords, fuck civility, and fuck the police.
Wow. Fuck Israel, fuck landlords, fuck civility, fuck the police. Now, Jake says, why do socialists champion Palestine so much? Well, this should be your first clue, Jake, because he just said, fuck Israel, fuck landlords, fuck civility, fuck the police. What do all of these things have in common? Private property ownership. They believe Israel are the settler colonists, which means they believe that Israel stole the land from the Palestinian people that was previously under the caretakership of the collective and then privatized it under the oppressive force of capitalism. The reason that the left supports Palestine and not Israel is because Israel are the settler colonists. The capitalist has nothing to do with them being Jewish, has nothing to do with the Palestinians being Muslim. It is a simple oppressed versus oppressor narrative in which Israel is the oppressor because they are the settler colonists that stole the land from the Palestinians in the first place. Fuck landlords. They believe that landlords exploit the people who rent out their properties. They believe that landlords should not exist because private property should not exist. They don't believe people should be able to own apartments. They don't believe people should be able to own houses. They don't believe people should be able to own land. Fuck the police because they believe the police are the managers of private property, the managers of capitalism. The only function of the police is to protect the private property that people own. This is why they want to abolish the police, defund the police, because they very literally believe that the police are the people that are upholding capitalism in this country. And fuck civility means they will not be civil or negotiate with anyone who wants to maintain private property ownership, which is what their definition of capitalism is. Thanks for the question.
Now, I've spent a lot of time arguing up to this point about what we shouldn't do, that we shouldn't support Zohran Mamdani. So what do we say to do? This is how I'm going to end
That's
the
a good question.
So I would argue, as won't be a surprise, that voting and campaigning for Zohran Mamdani and other Democrats cannot be reconciled to building the struggles of the working class and oppressed people. As I wrote in 2018, because running as a Democratic candidate entails deprioritizing building powerful, disruptive movements of the working class and the oppressed, it is contradictory to the task of building real power. Now, today I would add to this not only running as a Democrat, but campaigning and even voting for Democrats today and retrospectively is contradictory to this process.
Hang on, Hanzo, I'm going to say you need to rewind this presentation and listen to it again, because the socialists in this presentation already very explicitly said that Democrats do not care about the same issues they do. It was in this presentation. So no, they do not care about similar issues. They do not care about them in similar ways. You believe this because you are listening to conservative commentators tell you this, but it is not the truth. And the only evidence you need is you can rewind the presentation. What was it? Probably about half an hour to an hour ago, where they literally said in this very presentation, they consider the Democrats to be right-wingers. They do not consider them to care about the same issues. They consider Zohran Mamdani to be their enemy because he's running as a Democrat. So no, socialists do not believe the Democrats care about their issues in any way.
So, about voting, why not vote for the guy who seems reasonably good? In the past, lots of us argued that we didn't really care who you voted for as long as you committed to being with us in the streets. But I'd argue today that voting, especially for a Democrat, is a commitment to the integrity of capitalism. Not voting for us, at least in Firebrand, is a commitment we make now to the revolutionary overthrow of capitalism.
Not voting is a commitment we make to the violent overthrow of capitalism. If you are voting, if you are engaging in electoral politics, you are voting to uphold the capitalist system. Again,
that voting, especially for a Democrat, is a commitment to the integrity of capitalism. Not voting for us, at least in Firebrand, is a commitment we make now to the revolutionary overthrow of capitalism. It's a commitment to building struggles in the streets and workplaces against both wings of the capitalist class, and to educate, train as activists, and cadreify in Marxism everyone we can. This is the basis for a new era of revitalized struggles against the crisis of Trump and Trumpism that we are already beginning to see. Electoral nihilism is not necessarily a permanent position. If a workers' party can be built on a mass scale at some point, we would, of course, want to intervene in it. This party could run for Congress, the State House, and City Council without, however, thinking for a second that the center of our struggle is there. Now, we rule out in advance running candidates for executive and judicial office. President, governor, district attorney, mayor, any kind of judge.
Why is this? Pop quiz for the chat. They oppose running any candidate for any sort of executive office, including president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge. Why? He just said, maybe someday, maybe far in the future, maybe someday there can be some sort of working class party that maybe in some future we can consider running candidates, but we will never run candidates for executive office, and we will certainly not run candidates for president, governor, district attorney, mayor, any kind of judge. Why are those specific things socialists being like, no, we're not going to do that? Because they uphold the system? Yup, that's not the answer I'm looking for. It validates the capitalist electoral system? Yes, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. Because they would be part of capitalism? That's not the answer I'm looking for. They want the US government, the state, to be overthrown? That's not the answer I'm looking for. Not the answer, not the answer. Everyone who answers capitalism, you're right, but this is not the answer I'm looking for. You guys need to really think about this. Why would they never run a candidate for president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge? Why? Don't just say capitalism. That's fucking lazy. Not seeing an answer that gets at what I want yet. There are correct answers, but it's not the answer I'm looking for. You didn't mess up, Reagan. It's just a matter of thinking about the question. Based on what you know about what socialists consider to be capitalism. This is why you guys need to stop just putting capitalism in the chat. It's a lazy answer. Why is it capitalism? What does a president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge have to do with capitalism? Don't just throw keywords in the chat. It's fucking lazy. You guys can do better than this. Don't just throw keywords in my chat. It's fucking lazy. What do president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge have to do with capitalism based on what you know about what capitalism means? This is why we all need to... Okay, apparently we need to do a review of the actual definition of capitalism again. Nope. Nope. Reagan, you're not... You're overthinking this. This is when I question if anyone's actually listening to me. Because I literally just explained this less than 15 minutes ago. I literally just, nope, no one's getting the right answer. You guys are all answering the same thing and none of it is right. We're going to sit here until someone gets the right answer. What do president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge have to do with capitalism? And I'm not going to accept keywords, and I'm not going to accept a vague answer that doesn't mean anything. Someone's going to give a specific answer. No one's given the answer yet. So a good recommendation would be stop saying the thing that other people in the chat have said. If no one has given the right answer yet, stop saying the thing that other people in the chat are saying. We're going to sit here until someone gets... I'll sit here and knit all fucking night. What do president, governor, district attorney, mayor, and any kind of judge have to do with capitalism? Don't use vague keywords. Don't throw out a keyword and expect it to be enough. Actually explain it. Explain it as though you're teaching it to someone else. That's getting closer, Reagan. That's still not the answer I'm looking for. Do not use vague statements, guys. Everyone is... What you guys are doing right now in the chat is you're using extremely vague statements and you're hoping some part of your vague statement is correct so that I give you credit for it. I'm not giving you credit for it. No one is actually explaining what president, governor, district attorney, mayor, and any kind of judge has to do with capitalism. I'm actually shocked how bad you guys are doing at answering this, honestly. It makes me feel like no one listens to what I'm saying. I literally explained this less than 15 minutes ago. Well, Maria, they are hierarchical. Yep, that's correct. Maria is right that there is hierarchy, but what you said in that has nothing to do judging others. Socialists judge others all the time. The question is, what does the socialist is saying that even if they did have a working class party, and even if they did run for some positions, they would never run candidates for president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge. Why would a socialist political party never run candidates for president, governor, district attorney, mayor, or any kind of judge? Do not just throw out a vague key term and expect me to give you credit. I'm not going to do it. You can't be a socialist if you're at the top of the hierarchy. Getting closer, not quite there. Still not right. I'm just going to sit here and knit until you guys get the right answer. We could be here all night. Maybe I'll just end the stream if no one gets the right answer in like, oh, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe I'll just end the stream entirely. Because you guys aren't thinking, you're just throwing out keywords and vague generalities that don't mean anything. And that kind of pisses me off. No one is answering the question that I'm asking. Literally not a single one of you is answering the question that I'm asking you. What does president, governor, district attorney, mayor, and any kind of judge have to do with capitalism? Don't just say capitalism. Don't throw out some vague general statement about capitalism that is not answering the fucking question. Listen to the question I am asking you. And yes, thank you, Sam. Thank you. Sam, saving the day. President, governor, district attorney, mayor, and any kind of judge are all positions that would not exist if they get their way. These are the positions that they don't even want to exist. They don't want the president to exist. They don't want governors to exist. They don't want mayors to exist. They don't want the district attorney to exist because they don't want the prison industrial complex to exist. They don't want any kind of judge to exist because they don't want the court system to exist because they think the courts are unelected bureaucrats that basically hold back socialism. President, governor, and mayor are all at the top of the hierarchy, which puts one person above many, which they don't want to exist. Thank you. Why did it take 5 minutes to get there? Shouldn't have taken that fucking long to get there. They don't want any of those positions to exist, and that's why they would never run people for those positions. Does everyone understand? Let's go back.
This is the basis for a new era of revitalized struggles against the crisis of Trump and Trumpism that we are already beginning to see. Electoral nihilism is not necessarily a permanent position. If a workers' party can be built on a mass scale at some point, we would, of course, want to intervene in it. This party could run for Congress, the State House, and City Council without, however, thinking for a second that the center of our struggle is there. Now, we rule out in advance running candidates for executive and judicial office. President, governor, district attorney, mayor, any kind of judge. All of these roles have frontline responsibility for repressing us and the struggles of the working class and the oppressed. We also aren't categorically...
All of those positions, president, governor, mayor, district attorney, judge, have frontline responsibility in oppressing people in society.
Uninterested in being part, should the opportunity ever arise, of a so-called left-wing government under capitalism. The examples of Salvador Allende in Chile, Francois Mitterrand in France, and Syriza in Greece more recently are lessons and warnings for us. Marx and Engels' approach, again, was also quite different to this electoral strategy. In 1890, when the Social Democratic Party of Germany was poised to make huge gains in the German elections, Engels' worry was that it would win too many seats. That is to say, he wanted to use the elections as a platform to recruit effective working class party members, not to get 50% plus one. Now, the tradition that Firebrand comes out of, and which includes Marx and Engels, Lenin, Rosa Luxemburg, and Leon Trotsky, all the people Ben mentioned, when each of them considered the problems of a revolutionary party running in bourgeois elections, they all emphasized that the candidates and the eventual parliamentary fraction of the party had to be subordinate to the discipline of the party's democratically elected leadership. Our future party, based not on electoral district, but in the workplaces, movements, and working class and people of color neighborhoods, could run candidates for legislative office, but our sights would be set much higher than holding down seats on the city council, state assembly, or even Congress. So for now, we in Firebrand are electoral nihilists. That means we will not organizationally unite with those who do not have an absolute opposition to voting, campaigning, or running as a candidate for any bourgeois party. Our only defense here can be our immaculate politics. As Lenin said, reforms that a bourgeois legislative body can enact, he says, are only real in proportion to the intensity of the class struggle, and consequently, when Marxists merge their slogans and forces with reform-oriented members of the ruling class, as he says, we weaken the cause of revolution and consequently the cause of reform as well, because we thereby diminish the independence, fortitude, and strength of the revolutionary classes. Now I'm going to wrap up. I won't bullshit, comrades. This is a really tough position to hold, and we have committed to holding it long term. We're committed to holding it until the working class and the oppressed masses are ready to hold it with us. Much more storied revolutionaries than ourselves have been drawn into the electoral swamp, and in the US specifically, into the Democratic Party. Capitulation to capitalism, to paraphrase Lev Sedov, is an inclined plane, and no one who starts on down that plane has figured out a way of coming to rest once they start. The Democratic Party, I would argue, is to use a metaphor that was a favorite of Lenin's, is a chain. This chain is, in Lenin's usage, the chain links all capitalist countries together, and every question of struggle under capitalism runs along the chain. The first link of this chain, I would argue, is the US state, and it runs through the DNC, left-wing Democrats such as Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zohran Mamdani, their organization.
Hang on, we need to start this at the beginning.
Plane, and no one who starts on down that plane has figured out a way of coming to rest once they start. The Democratic Party, I would argue, is to use a metaphor that was a favorite of Lenin's, is a chain. This chain is, in Lenin's usage, the chain links all capitalist countries together, and every question of struggle under capitalism runs along the chain. The first link of this chain, I would argue, is the US state, and it runs through the DNC.
The first link of the chain of capitalism of the Democratic Party is the US state, which runs through the DNC. The US state, the US government, the Constitution is the first link in the capitalist chain, according to the socialists.
Left-wing Democrats such as Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zohran Mamdani, their organizations like Our Revolution, the fundraising operations, and NGOs are unions, coalitions, and campaigns to the extent that we have not won them to anti-electoralism. And finally, the chain runs into the radical left itself. Through our arguments and actions, we can break the chain at this link. This is the first step, and we can convince our comrades to sever connections to the lower echelons of the Democratic Party, where its tentacles extended to our movements.
They are encouraging their comrades to cut off connection with the Democratic Party and anywhere its tentacles go into their movement. So the person earlier who says, Karlyn, aren't Democrats enacting the policies of the socialists? The socialists don't seem to think so, because they're saying, we want to cut off all contact. We want nothing to do with you assholes. You're capitalists. You're right-wingers. We are revolutionaries. We don't agree with you.
Capacities grow, we will be able to break the other links of the chain as well. To quote Stephen Salaita one last time, he has written that recalcitrance towards Sanders, the Democrats, and the electoral process, as he writes, can be a deep, abiding act of love for Palestine. Staying true to our hard-won position on the Democratic Party and electoral politics is a deep, abiding act of love for our struggles, our class, our people, ourselves, and a wager on the communist future of humanity. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you, comrade. That's it. That is the Democratic Socialist position, or not, excuse me. That's the Denver Communist, not the Democratic Socialist. Strike that. That is the Denver Communist position on Zohran Mamdani. No, they do not support him. No, they're not voting in elections. No, they don't think other people should vote in elections. They think Zohran Mamdani is a right-wing Democrat. They literally use the terminology in the presentation. They think he's too close to capitalism. They think he's part of the capitalist system. They do not support this. They don't think it's a good idea. They think that the system, he might be a socialist now, but the bourgeois system and being involved in the bourgeois system is going to turn him into the bourgeois. They, in fact, already think he's sold out to the bourgeois by running as a Democrat in the first place. They can't be more clear. This is why we love the Denver Communists, why we watch the Denver Communists all the time. They are extremely clear and plain spoken in what they believe, and they don't like the DSA candidate for mayor. But the Denver Communists are one group, and so maybe other communist groups see things differently. Maybe. We have this next clip, and this is only about 17 minutes long. But it is part of a longer podcast, but I thought we would just watch the clip and maybe they just get right to it in the clip. This is from the Revolutionary Communists of America. The Revolutionary Communists of America are a completely different group than the Denver Communists. The Revolutionary Communists of America have their own organizing structure. They have an organized presence in at least 30 U.S. cities. They do a lot of stickering around U.S. cities. So if you ever go out into a city and you see a sticker of Karl Marx pointing at you and it says, "Are you a communist?" and it has Karl Marx pointing at you with a QR code, that's the Revolutionary Communists of America. when I was at Boston Pride a month ago, before the night before the Boston Pride Parade, the Revolutionary Communists of America did a massive stickering campaign where basically every single light post around where the Pride Parade started had a giant Revolutionary Communists of America sticker on the light post trying to appeal to people who are at the Pride Parade. They had QR codes and stuff like that. I took a whole bunch of pictures of it. I posted it on my Twitter, but I mean, they were all over the place. They put them up on subway signs. It was like literally anywhere around the initial kind of place where people were lining up for the parade. You walk out of the subway, you see Revolutionary Communists of America. And so so this is a completely different group. Well, he doesn't have time to tweet something, and I don't have time to watch that video, and that's just going to be the way it is, and he can go fuck himself. And, you know, you can let me know, Marty. You can let me know when he gets around to working out his fucking feelings again. I don't care. This is Socialism Saturday. Go away. So, we're now going to watch the Revolutionary Communists of America. This is about a 17-minute clip. What does the Zohran win mean? And we're going to find out how they feel about him. Yeah, well, he can take out his fucking phone and he can tweet it if he wants to. It would take about 2 seconds. He already could have done it. Just like he already could have responded about 1,000,000 times. Just like he already could have fucking unblocked me 2 fucking days ago, rather than continuing to kick me out of the spaces for no reason. Just like he didn't have to go on his stream and brag that the reason he blocked me was to get me kicked out of those fucking spaces, which he knows is exactly what he's doing. He can go F himself. Anyway, let's watch this.
This is an editorial that came out today from the Wall Street Journal. It's entitled "The People's Republic of New York City." Let me just read the first line of it. The easy victory by Zohran Mamdani in Tuesday's Democratic mayoral primary marks a sharp left turn for New York City. But perhaps more important is that it signals the rise of left-wing economic populism as a leading alternative to the MAGA Republicans. That's the take from the mouthpiece of Wall Street. They're clearly worried about what this means. I saw there was an executive of a hedge fund, Dan Loeb. He's the chief executive of hedge fund Third Point. He wrote on X, "It's officially hot commie summer." So the bourgeois are a little bit worried about what this means. I think a lot of young people are looking at this with excitement, and they're saying, okay, well, we got a socialist win in New York.
We, as the Revolutionary Communists of America, are only too happy to take down Wall Street.
He was on my channel.
Take down the capitalist media.
This guy was on my channel. What was it, about a year and a half ago? I don't remember what his name was. I don't think he contributed a whole lot, but it's good to see him again. All right, I'm not going to continue to yell at Marty. Marty, you know what? To give Marty credit, at least Marty seems to be trying to be productive. Now, I'm sure if I went over to the other one's Kick channel when he does eventually start streaming, we're going to see Marty shit-talking me in the chat and saying all sorts of stuff because that's what Marty does. But at least Marty is trying to productively negotiate, which is more than I can say for Big Tech, who just should have unblocked me the other day when everyone was feeling good and everyone had like a moment where they were laughing and having a good time. No, he had to get all up in his feelings again. And so at least we have to give Marty credit for being productive. Anyway.
Take down the establishment, you know, and all their politicians, whether that's Eric Adams or Cuomo or, you know, whatever. We definitely would love to see the working class defeat all these people. But the question is what will it take to truly defeat them? Or are they not going to be able to? How can they defeat that power structure? We know the power structure is afraid of what is being unleashed by Zohran Mamdani and the DSA. And why is that? Because they are afraid of people starting to wake up and question capitalism, starting to look towards the ideas of socialism. We know they're afraid of that. But we also have to ask, is the Zohran Mamdani mayoralty and his campaign, is that really going to bring about what he's promising?
If you haven't read our U.S. Perspectives document yet, which was just approved
he was on my channel
unanimously
too.
by
I recognize
our
his voice.
Successful Congress that we just held in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, we actually predicted this, precisely what this mouthpiece of the American bourgeoisie is saying, that the only way that the Democrats can get out of their current funk is to adopt this left economic populism or left populism, to sort of give left cover to their policies to try to re-energize people. But of course, we understand that they're doing it. There's obviously a lot of very well-meaning and intentioned people in the rank and file of around these these kinds of movements.
Yeah, these are the guys that explained to us what intifada meant, which means worldwide socialist revolution. Intifada has nothing to do with killing Jews. I literally have this guy and the other older guy on video saying intifada means worldwide socialist revolution from when they were on my channel. I don't think they liked me for using that clip because they have never spoken to me again. And I even reached out to them a couple times via DMs and I was like, "Hi, communist, do you want to come talk to me? Do you want to come on the channel again? We had such a nice talk last time." But I think they're really pissed off at me using that intifada clip over and over and over and over and over again. And they have never since responded to my inquiries. So it's too bad. The Revolutionary Communists of America are welcome to come on the channel and talk to us anytime they want to. I was very nice to them the last time they came on. They got to say whatever they wanted to say. They got to hold up their newspaper. They got to have their talking points. And all I asked was that they teach us what intifada actually means, which means worldwide socialist revolution, according to them. And then they got all upset. It's fine. It's okay, communists, fine.
But at the top, it's a cynical ploy, again, to try to keep people within safe limits. They want to keep things from getting out of control. And I think we should probably have a full episode analyzing, the mayoral primaries that we just had and talking about, look, the fact that they're sort of in a panic already when, if you look at his policies, they're actually more like sort of light progressive policies that fit within the bounds of certain aspects of the Democratic Party. He's not calling.
Zohran Mamdani has light progressive policies that fit within the bounds of the Democratic Party.
The mayoral primaries that we just had and talking about, look, the fact that they're sort of in a panic already when, if you look at his policies, they're actually more like sort of light progressive policies that fit within the bounds of certain aspects of the Democratic Party. He's not calling for the nationalization of Wall Street or anything like that, or the expropriation of the landlords that are ripping everybody off in this hyper expensive city. He's talking about having a handful of city-run grocery stores when the grocery industry is a global industry, huge thing that you can't tackle within the limits of one city. You can't have socialism in one city or socialism in one state, or even in a country as big as the United States. It's got to be a worldwide system, and that's what we're fighting for. And so, we have to explain all these things, understanding that yes, on some level, this does represent a victory insofar as 42,000 people canvassed for him. That's a lot of human energy and enthusiasm for changing the status quo. But we're going to have to explain in a friendly way, of course, why ultimately what he's proposing is going to lead to disappointment. Because if you limit yourself to the system, as we were just saying, then you're going to hit a brick wall eventually. And that's why we have to rupture that system altogether.
Seeing echoes of 2018 here with AOC's style upset against Crowley, who was a big dominant establishment figure that all the polls thought had it in the bag when she ran for Congress in that district. You had a young person, an outsider, someone that had a combative message against the establishment. And it's true, like Cuomo is a typical establishment, had the backing of Bloomberg, was endorsed by Clinton, had all of this money, was using his reputation as someone that had already been in government, that had all this staff, and knew he was attacking Zohran for being a nobody, for having achieved nothing, for being an outsider to politics. If anything, all of that only helped the Zohran campaign. And the fact that Zohran Mamdani won, and he won, it wasn't a protracted election. There weren't all of these rounds of counting the various rankings. He won handily, and Cuomo then just basically conceded the race last night. We weren't sure if we were going to even have a result last night. It shows something about the mood in New York, the mood of the working class. Like Cuomo, Zohran puts himself forward as someone in solidarity with Palestine. This is a big poke in the eye to the Zionists that have long been dominant in New York City politics, as with so many other cities. This is a jab against the establishment. And so that's a big part of why they're worried. But just like with Sanders and AOC and the Fighting Oligarchy Tour, it's not that Zohran is taking this step in order to begin a revolution. It's not that he's trying to engage in revolutionary politics. It's not that he's trying to build a socialist movement as such. he's very clear that he's trying to rehabilitate the Democratic Party. And his campaign began after the presidential election last November, when he went up to the Bronx and started interviewing people that voted for Trump and doing, again, just like AOC was, trying to bridge the divide and say, okay, do you feel like the Democrats aren't paying attention to your needs?
That's very
And
true.
you're
They did
worried
do
about
that.
the affordability crisis. Well, we need to get the Democrats.
So just think about this. So we talked about this earlier, but let me find the slide. We talked about this earlier when we were looking at the NYC DSA meeting that I infiltrated this past week. So the NYC DSA gave this one example of this one precinct in New York City, Brighton Beach, that they explicitly targeted. And in this precinct, they were specifically going out and targeting people who voted for Trump. So Republican voters to say, are you happy with what's going on? Because we don't think you're happy with what's going on for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. And here's why we think Zohran Mamdani is a better option for you than voting for the Republican, because are you really happy with what's going on? So they basically targeted Trump voters in this specific district, and it went from being a district that went for Eric Adams in 2020 to being a district that overwhelmingly by 71% went for Zohran Mamdani, and that was primarily based on targeting working class people who voted for Donald Trump. So we've got this from the NYC DSA, and this is part of the reason that Zohran Mamdani won the mayor's nomination in New York City, because they were doing this all over the city. They were doing this in areas that no one had actually campaigned in before. They were targeting voters that had never voted in elections before, and they were targeting Trump voters who they thought might be disaffected with the system. They were targeting Muslim voters who thought they might be pissed off with how the Democrats are handling Palestine. They had very specific profiles of people they were going after. So they had a strategy, and that strategy is what got them to win the mayor's nomination in New York City. And now we're listening to the Revolutionary Communists of America, and they're saying the fact that they're reaching out to Trump voters, that means we are not on the same page. We do not have the same ideas about any of this. So again, this is the difference between reformist groups who are willing to work within the system and revolutionary communists who want to overthrow the system entirely. We'll listen to that again, just so people can hear. So the Trump and GOP disappointed on the right. Mamdani and Democrats disappointed on the left. Frustration takes over since they're prepped for Boogaloo. The Marxists plan to take up the pieces. I mean, I don't think anyone on the right is going to go to war. I don't think anyone on the right is going to engage in revolution. I don't think anyone on the right is going to leave their recliner to go do something difficult. So, yeah, it's not. No, that's more of a conservative talking point. That's not really what's going on here. But you know, nice try. You're on the right track, but you're not quite there yet.
The eye to the Zionists that have long been dominant in New York City politics, as with so many other cities. I mean, this is a jab against the establishment. And so that's a big part of why they're worried. But just like with Sanders and AOC and the Fighting Oligarchy Tour, it's not that Zohran is taking this step in order to begin a revolution. It's not that he's trying to engage in revolutionary politics. It's not that he's trying to build a socialist movement as such. He's very clear that he's trying to rehabilitate the Democratic Party. And his campaign began after the presidential election last November, when he went up to the Bronx and started interviewing people that voted for Trump and doing, again, just like AOC was, trying to bridge the divide and say, okay, do you feel like the Democrats aren't paying attention to your needs and you're worried about the affordability crisis? Well, we need to get the Democrats back on the right track. And he's been saying these statements. If you want the working class to go back to the Democratic Party, then we need the Democrats to change its course. You can see the whole perspective from Mamdani is to change course of the Democrats. Our whole perspective is to destroy that party of the ruling class and to expose both of the ruling parties of the system. And
Zohran Mamdani wants to reform the Democrats. They want to change the Democrats. We, as the Revolutionary Communists of America, want to destroy the Democrats. So again, this is a completely different group than the Denver Communists. These people do not generally work with the Denver Communists. They don't generally work with the Firebrand Collective. They're more based out of Philadelphia and New York City, whereas the Denver Communists are obviously in Denver. So even there's a geographical difference. And I want people to hear this. So again, for the person who came in the chat earlier and was like, but Karlyn, don't the Democrats implement the policies of the socialists? The socialists and communists are saying, We want to destroy the Democratic Party. So do you want to destroy something that's implementing things that you like? No. The Democratic Party is not implementing their policies. The Democratic Party, in their minds, is the enemy. And it really bothers me that I have to keep saying this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because it's so clear, and socialists and communists say this all the time, and yet people on the right do not understand this. So I just want to do a quick pause, and I want to see in the chat, and I want everyone to be honest. If you still don't understand this, you need to be honest so we can help you understand this, okay? One in the chat if you understand that socialists and communists hate the Democratic Party, and that no, the Democratic Party are not their useful idiots, and that no, the Democratic Party does not implement their policies. Press 2 in the chat if you are still confused and you're just sure that the communists and the Democrats are working together or supporting each other in some way. And you need to be honest about this. I know that we're seeing a lot of ones in the chat right now, but like, I just have to repeat this so much that, because you guys have seen the people come in the chat tonight, and there are still people who are confused. And listen, there are some newer people here. If you're newer and you're confused, I completely understand why you're confused. It's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on your media. Go he's making a funny. He's not serious. I know you're not serious. Thank you.
Feel like the Democrats aren't paying attention to your needs and you're worried about the affordability crisis. Well, we need to get the Democrats back on the right track. And he's been saying these statements. If you want the working class to go back to the Democratic Party, then we need the Democrats to change its course. You can see the whole perspective from Mamdani is to change course of the Democrats. Our whole perspective is to destroy that party of the ruling class and to expose both of the ruling parties of the system. And I think that a lot of people on the left, a lot of people that are excited by Mamdani's campaign don't understand why class independence is so important. And why, I mean, a lot of them, they seem to frame this position of ours like an irrational obsession with like purity politics. A lot of people would say, Mamdani, at least he's doing something. At least he's trying to take a step. And yeah, he's not totally there to wave a Bolshevik flag, but at least he's raising the visibility of socialism. He's fighting for some reforms. This is a great start. Why shouldn't we support him?
Mamdani means well, and that he wants to do the best he can to improve the conditions of working people. But if he would listen to us, if he would like to engage in a discussion, we'll invite you, Zohran Mamdani, you have a invitation to come to our podcast, and we'd love to have a discussion and debate with you on this and on what is the right way forward. But the first thing I'd start with is what is causing the problems that are affecting working class people? Why is the standard of living going down for working class people in this country and around the world? Why is there more and more instability? We would say it's a crisis of capitalism.
Oh,
Capitalism is in a decline, a historic decline, not just in the United States, worldwide. And you cannot fix the system. You have to overthrow the system and transform society along socialist lines. You
can't fix the system. You have to overthrow the system. And by the system, they mean the capitalist system. Is the Democratic Party trying to manage the leftists as their thugs to use against their enemies? No, that's retarded. The Democratic Party doesn't like the communists or socialists any more than the socialists and communists like the Democratic Party. If you think they do, you really need to stop listening to whoever you're listening to, because it's not real. They do not work together. They don't like each other. They don't support each other. The Democrats are not useful idiots for the socialists. The socialists and communists are not useful idiots for the Democrats. No, the Marxists do not use the Democrats to recruit an order. No, this is not real. None of this is real. Thank you for being honest about like not getting it yet, but literally none of this is real. It's all part of the conservative bullshit narrative. You've listened to two different communist groups tonight tell you exactly the same thing. No. You're the one who's confused here. And you are confused because you are not fucking listening. You have heard two different communist and socialist groups tonight tell you explicitly that they consider the Democratic Party to be their enemy. The Democratic Party feels exactly the same way about them. So you are the one shilling a conservative bullshit narrative. So you are the one who is confused, and you are the one who needs to start listening.
Of capitalism. Capitalism is in a decline, a historic decline, not just in the United States, worldwide. And you cannot fix the system. You have to overthrow the system and transform society along socialist lines. We have wonderful technology. We have millions of people with potential labor. You put labor and technology and resources together, and you could make a world where everyone will have plenty, not just enough, but have more than enough. We can have a much better life. But you can't do that within the confines of capitalism. In the United States, the two major capitalist political parties that represent the Democrats and the Republicans, both of them ultimately are in crisis. The crisis of the Republicans led to MAGA takeover. The crisis of the Democrats is unfolding in front of our eyes. I just want to mention, this was in the New York Times a few days ago. They have an article, Inside the Democratic National Committee, Chaos and a Shortage of Cash. So you could just see there are all kinds of battles going on in between. You got the governor Newsom in California. He's one wing of the party. He wants to go towards the right. He's on Steve Bannon's program. I guess he was on Charlie Kirk's program. You got that.
Gavin Newsom wants to go to the right, according to the communists. So someone asked earlier in the chat, is Gavin Newsom a communist? Not according to the communists. According to the communists, Gavin Newsom is a right winger.
You got another group of right-wing Democrats meeting in Congress, and then you have this other wing that says,
"See, this is what conservative retards do." Excuse me, you're caught up in semantics, and I think that the communists and socialists are useful idiots of the Democrats. No, bro, no, you're still not listening, and so we're gonna help you out here. We're gonna put you in a timeout. Your job is now to sit in the back of the class and listen. And after your 5-minute timeout, where you are only going to listen for 5 minutes, we're taking away your ability to speak because you obviously can't handle it. After your timeout, your job is to ask questions. The only thing you're allowed to do is ask questions. You are not allowed to make any statements because you don't know what you're talking about. That is your role at the moment. Appreciate you, conspiracy extremist. Thank you.
Wait a minute. What we should do is bring the Democrats towards this kind of left populism. There's that kind of I want to mention they had this demonstration a couple weeks ago. Was it No Kings, right? And there was the actor Mark Ruffalo was at that that demonstration. He was interviewed on television. I like him, by the way. I just wanted to. I think he's a very good actor, but he was talking about how such a small percentage of the population owns a tremendous amount of wealth. And then he linked it to that demonstration against Trump. But, we have to ask Mark, and again, I think he's a great actor, but how did that wealth disparity?
This is a great question, Pete. Do you have anything on the Substack that lists the various groups and briefly describes the politicians? RCA, DSA, WPA, Denver Communist, Firebrand Club. It gets overwhelming. Yeah, so this is a project that I want to do called Mapping the Modern Left, which is kind of like a bigger project. So I currently have the Mapping the Modern Left framework, which is the 5 tiers of the left. People can find it at decodetheleft.com/map. I do want to do a larger project that is about mapping the organizations of the modern left. We've tried to do this on a number of occasions. The problem is it is a really fuck off massive project. Because we tried to start doing this with a wiki like maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, something like that. And what we found out when we started trying to do this with the wiki is that there are so many groups that it's just like, it is almost impossible. It is almost impossible. How can you help? I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. I really am. This is something I want to figure out. I want to create. I've been thinking about like how best to do this. I was actually just thinking about, do I create a map with all the different socialist groups all over the country and all the different like local groups and stuff like that? Even that gets to be a really big project, because then you have local groups within the RCA, local groups within the PSL, local groups within the DSA, local groups within the Firebrand Collective, within the Tempest Collective, and like all these other cells, all these, and it's just like people don't understand. This is not. The left is not small. The left is a giant, massive web of thousands and thousands and maybe even into the tens of thousands of different organizations all over the country. It is a huge project. It is not as though I haven't been thinking about this. I just don't know how to properly execute on it. And so I want to try to figure it out. Stay tuned. Well, but then it becomes, how do I manage but then the problem becomes, how do I manage all the information in a cohesive way? Because listen, like people like Reagan's been researching this stuff for years. Like, it's not a matter of like, do I have people that can find the information? Yes, but it's not easy. No, Pete, no. You think this is all going to get managed in an Excel document or a Word document? No, that's not going to work. It's not going to work at all in any way. So well, AI can help gather the information. That's true. But can AI help manage the information and info map the information in a way that makes sense? Not really, not in a way that doesn't require human interaction. So listen, I am working on trying to figure that out, but people need to understand that is a giant project. That is kind of one of those things where, like, if we worked on that every day for a year, we probably still wouldn't have it done. That is how big that project is. So I am trying to figure it out. I do want to try to do something. It's not as though I've given up on it. I just want people to understand why it doesn't exist. And it's because it is a giant project. Donnie Girl, thank you for the $50 super chat. You're a great teacher with tough love. Very needed in these times. Hey, thank you, Donnie. I do appreciate that. Cool. But no, that is a project I want to work on. It's a project I've been thinking about a lot lately, and more to come on all of that. Actually, should be this week. At least a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm going to have a map this week, but I'm going to have a little bit more information, okay?
Happened. It wasn't just under Trump. It wasn't just like since January 20th that a small group of people own mostly everything in the economy, right? This is a byproduct of capitalism. It's not the tax system. It's not Trump. It's capitalism. It's the fact that
No. Okay, again, you guys aren't understanding what I'm saying. You think I need one person? You think I need one person to do this project? I need a team of 100 people to do this project, and that's to make a dent in it. That's just to get started. I'm not joking when I say this. You think one graduate student intern with the Center for Left-Wing Studies is going to be enough to crack this project? No. Give me a team of 100 people, not graduate student interns, because I'm going to have to train graduate student interns. Graduate student interns don't know shit about shit. I need 100 people that I have personally trained to understand the left, volunteering just to even start doing this. That's what we're talking about. One graduate student, please. Because that's the other problem too. It's like, not just anyone can come in and do this project, because if you don't know anything, I have to train you. And because if you don't know anything, you don't know how to research the groups, you don't know how to research the information, you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know what the language means. So it's not like I can just go find there are no graduate programs in this. There's no graduate programs in how to speak socialist. It doesn't exist. Most people on my channel don't even know how to do this well enough to be able to functionally participate in a project like this. You have to speak their language fluently. If you don't speak their language, you can be looking at websites all day. You aren't going to understand what you're looking at. Anyway.
Wasn't just under Trump. It wasn't just like since January 20th that a small group of people own mostly.
Sorry, I'm going to stop talking about this, but this is actually a really good explanation. The left is a 5-pound bag of rice, with each grain being a different group. And every time you look at one grain, you find 24 other groups. And every time you look at an activist within those groups, you find 24 more groups. It's not just a family. Someone said just do it as a family tree. This is not a family tree that can be managed on any one document. This is, you have one grain of rice, and it's all fucking white. Correct, Marty? Yep. You have one grain of rice, and that single grain of rice leads you to 24 more grains of rice. And every single one of those grains of rice leads you to 24 more. It's just like, it's that big, and that's how absurd it is. And all of these things are interconnected, but then they're not because they don't work together because it's a decentralized organization. It's so fucked.
Everything in the economy, right? This is a byproduct of capitalism. It's not the tax system. It's not Trump. It's capitalism. It's the fact that the capitalists exploit the working class and make and basically take most of the proceeds, the value that's created by that labor ends up in the pockets of the capitalist class. So it's not just the simple.
Hang on, we got a super chat from Richard. Is there any way I could find local meetings of communists and sit in on their meetings? Would they accept an observer? Are they hostile and secretive? So can you go into a communist meeting and say, listen, communists, I don't want to be a communist. I just want to observe you? No. That would be a very bad idea, Richard. You should definitely not do that. Do communists welcome new people into their groups? Generally speaking, yes, but you have to pose as a communist. You have to pose as someone that's interested in them. You have to pose as a leftist minimally. You have to go undercover. You can't just go in and say, "Hey guys, I kind of just want to sit and watch your meetings. Is it cool if I just sit and watch your meetings?" They're not going to like that at all. But if they think that you're part of their group, yeah, you can get away with that. There are people in my community who do go undercover at leftist events, but you also have to be very careful. You have to speak their language. And Richard, if you haven't yet done my classes on socialism and how to speak their language, you're going to want to do those first, because they will sniff you out very quickly if you don't speak their language. And so this is another one of the things that's challenging, because if you don't speak their language and you go to their events, they can tell that you don't speak their language, right? So, but you can do it, and I appreciate the super chat. Thank you.
Thing that it's caused by Trump or his policies or his tax policies, which is the same argument put forward by Bernie Sanders, and it's the same argument put forward by Mamdani.
You know, to bring it back down to the class issues at stake here, it's really interesting that he went up to the Bronx and asked people what their complaints were, and it sounds like almost all of the reasons why they voted for Trump was some sort of class question. You better believe that the RCA is going to be on the streets of New York asking people, "Did you vote for Zohran?"
Well, no, this is actually horrible advice, because they don't actually say settler colonist a lot, and no one who knew how to speak their language would actually give that as advice, because it's really shitty advice. You really shouldn't do that. And if you just go around saying capitalism, 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 they're going to sniff that out too, because they're going to know you don't really know what you're talking about. This is actually not a joke. If you go, and I'm going to be really serious. It's actually not a joke to go undercover at leftist events. These are violent militants. They will beat the shit out of you. I'm not going to be responsible for someone going into a leftist event and thinking they're dicking around because they've watched one of my streams and they go capitalism, 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 and then they get the shit kicked out of them. Guess what? You did it to yourself, because you ignored my explicit instruction that if you're going to go do this, you need to learn how to speak their language. You need to learn how to speak it fluently. You have to take it seriously. No dicking around. No trying to provoke them. No trying to catch them in the conservative bullshit gotchas, because these people will beat the shit out of you. And when you're undercover at their events, it's one of you and a room full of them. So you might think they're skinny soy boys and they can't do anything. I promise you they can, especially when it's one of you and an entire room full of them.
And if they did, we're going to say why. And when they give us an answer that's obviously going to have some kind of class content, we're then going to link that and connect that to our program and explain our revolutionary vision for how we can actually transform things by going beyond the bounds of capitalism. So of this going to open huge possibilities for us. Obviously, we do have to, put the warning out there that there could be big disappointment, because if he doesn't go beyond the bounds of capitalism, he's not going to achieve very much. But at the same time, we can inspire people with this vision for a different way of organizing.
Hey, thank you, Maria Callis fan, for being a member of the channel for 10 months. People, I was in the DSA and I'm an NYC theater community, and I will not fool with this. Be smart and safe. Yeah. I mean, listen, and the DSA is not a dangerous group. Like, you can go to a DSA meeting and they're not going to hurt you. You can do most of them on Zoom. If you want to do that, they're not going to hurt you, but it's just like, you really do need to be careful. And this is not a joke, and this is not a game. And I really do worry about someone from one of my streams thinking I can go undercover at a leftist event when in fact they haven't done their homework. I was watching socialism for a full year before I started going undercover at leftist events. And thank God I did, because like going into the event, I knew what was going on. Anyway,
in society, a different way of doing politics, and that's that I think your comments will find that, our listeners will find that if they check out our program at our website.
And I think that the question of the program is fundamental for any kind of politics. If you want to have a guiding thread, but at least earlier, Trump and his cabinet is trying to manage this decline of U.S. imperialism, and they're blindly making turns at every opportunity. It's like there's no consistent direction where everything is going.
Like a Roomba, right?
Like a Roomba vacuum.
Like a Roomba.
He's got the negotiating skills going straight
Like
into a wall and then
Roomba.
some other direction he reaches another wall. I mean, you can't do politics that way. And if you don't have a program that uses class war methods and that has an objective of breaking with capitalism and breaking with the capitalist institutions and the capitalist parties, then you're never going to move forward beyond this system. You'll never take a step in the direction of moving forward. And people say, well, at least it's a reform, at least it's a small improvement. The improvements won't come. And the strategic steps that need to happen will also not come. I mean, as Marxists, we understand the working class is an element in society, but it needs to be politically organized in a conscious way as workers. You need a class independent party. And that's not purity politics. It's simple class politics. And if we don't have that, I mean, the whole question of the program is, like Tom was saying, why do we have these problems in society? Why is the standard of living going down? For us, we have a Marxist analysis of this. And it's an analysis of power in society. Power isn't just some amorphous thing. Everybody has a little bit of power, or getting elected into the mayoral seat gives you power. That's not how power works.
Oh,
There's
yeah?
a capitalist state. And that's the entire apparatus is the question of power. And that is dominated by another class. And that class.
It's the capitalist state, the capitalist government, the capitalist constitution. You don't gain power in a capitalist model by just getting elected to office. When you get elected to a capitalist bourgeois office within a capitalist system, the system consumes you and it makes you part of the system.
Little bit of power, or getting elected into the mayoral seat gives you power. That's not how power works. There is a capitalist state. And that's the entire apparatus is the question of power. And that is dominated by another class. And that class's ownership of the means of production, of finance capital, of the bank. You're going up against the billionaires. And the social relations, you're talking about private property. That's power. That's capitalism.
Private property.
Those are the lines you have to be willing to cross if you actually want to deliver.
Private property is capitalism? Wow. Did you guys know that private property was capitalism and capitalism is private property?
Capitalist state. And that's the entire apparatus is the question of power. And that is dominated by another class. And that class's ownership of the means of production, of finance capital, of the bank. You're going up against the billionaires. And the social relations, you're talking about private property. That's power. That's capitalism. Those are the lines you have to be willing to cross if you actually want to deliver any kind of real reform, any real improvement. And if you don't recognize those things as the obstacles, if those aren't your parameters, then by default, you can already say that the thing is going to be doomed. Sometimes socialist activists say, we have to just capture the Democratic Party line and win an election. Well, who's capturing who? How did that work out for AOC, who was going to be an insurgent candidate and go in there and be combative? She was totally captured by the swamp of the Democratic Party. She became a second Nancy Pelosi. There was no fight back.
AOC, totally captured by the swamp of the Democratic Party. Basically a second Nancy Pelosi.
Sometimes socialist activists say, we have to just capture the Democratic Party line and win an election. Well, who's capturing who? How did that work out for AOC, who was going to be an insurgent candidate and go in there and be combative? She was totally captured by the swamp of the Democratic Party. She became a second Nancy Pelosi. There was no fight back. And there certainly wasn't any step towards the creation of a mass working class party. That's the reason that we don't support Zohran. As happy as we are to fight back against the establishment, to see the Zionists poked in the eye politically by this election result, to see the panic on Wall Street, we're happy about those things. But strategically, we want a real working class party with a real class war program that has a real chance of actually delivering improvements. And I think it will be a disappointment.
Can I just say, if Zohran is listening, I'd ask him this. I'd say, look, which class is the vast majority of New York a member of? Is it the ruling class? Is it the capitalist class? Or is it the working class? I think we know he would answer the working class. So does that working class deserve its own political party? Can it have at least its own political party separate from the Democrats and Republicans? And here's another question. Since so many people are disgusted with the Democratic Party, look at the polls, right? In fact, I saw somebody who was working with Zohran's campaign yesterday from the so-called Working Families Party, which is not a genuine Working Families Party. If it was, we would support it. But they themselves said that.
Okay, the Working Families Party is kind of like another Democratic Socialist of America, except they're called the Working Families Party. So they're more like reformers. They are actually pretty far left. They do actually support socialist candidates. They do get candidates elected into like local office in Philadelphia and New Jersey. They're highly active around that area. The Working Families Party is also currently working with a group out of Los Angeles to try to reach 10 million voters across the South and the Southwest. I've been on their organizing calls about that, where they're reaching out, they're making phone calls, they're doing door knocking to try to turn people against ICE and things like that. So the Working Families Party is actually a real kind of like DSA type political party, but even them, the Revolutionary Communists of America, are like, they're not actually a Working Families Party, because they're working within the system and they're trying to get reform by working within the electoral system. And the real communists are saying, no, that's just not good enough for us.
Class deserve its own political party? Can it have at least its own political party separate from the Democrats and Republicans? And here's another question. Since so many people are disgusted with the Democratic Party, look at the polls, right? In fact, I saw somebody who was working with Zohran's campaign yesterday from the so-called Working Families Party, which is not a genuine Working Families Party. If it was, we would support it. But they themselves said, this person said on the television, they said, the Democratic Party was so discredited, we had to have a program to try to bring people back into the Democratic Party. So here's my question. Why do that? Why bring people back? Why couldn't you build that 40,000 strong volunteer corps that would be the core of a new workers' party that could represent the vast majority in the city? Those are my questions.
What separates the Revolutionary Communists of America from most politics in this country? I mean, I think if you ask most Americans whether they like politics, they're probably going to like roll their eyes and disgust, because the way the bourgeois do politics, it's all about cheap little tactics, winning points, little victories here and there, no real strategy. And that's what differentiates us from them and from the politics as usual. We have a strategy, and it's all outlined in our program. It's basically explains, if you read our program, it explains exactly how we envision taking today's situation, today's potential for reorganizing society, and taking it all the way to the world socialist revolution. And that's why I think everybody listening, and our comrades in particular, really need to revisit our program, study it, because we're going to have to be very agile in explaining these things on the streets to people when they have questions. Look, Zohran's victory is not just news in New York. It's not just news in the US. It's all over the world now. People all over the world are wondering, is it true that you have a Socialist People's Republic of New York now? Obviously, that's not the case. I mean, Zohran's not calling for socialism in one city. But we've got to be able to explain to people what we mean by socialist strategy, a revolutionary communist strategy.
Oh, that's fair. You gotta love how the Revolutionary Communists of America just fully embraced the whole communist thing. I mean, it is actually kind of spectacular. All right. So we've listened to the Denver communists say they don't like Zohran Mamdani and they consider the Democrats to be the enemy. We've listened to the Revolutionary Communists of America saying they don't like Zohran Mamdani and they consider him to be the enemy and the Democrats to be the enemy. I want to spend some time, and we're not going to listen to this whole video, but I just want to spend a little bit of time. This is about 2.5 hours long. We're absolutely not watching the whole thing, but I'm curious about what the reaction is of average people in New York City to Zohran Mamdani. Because again, at the beginning of the stream, I took you through all the NYC DSA data to show you flat out like the massive organizing effort that the DSA did in New York City around getting him that mayoral nomination. And so this is a channel called Status Coup News. You can see right here. They have about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is not a small thing. And on the eve of like when Zohran Mamdani won the mayoral race, they were actually doing on the street interviews just with like average people talking about this. And I just want to watch this a little bit and find out what like the kind of normie New Yorker thinks about all of this stuff. So this is Socialism Saturday, guys. Now, this is a socialist like channel. This is a socialist content channel, but I don't suspect that most of the people they're going to be interviewing on the sidewalk are actually going to be socialists. I guess we'll find out. But please make sure you mount the like button for me, guys. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We will spend a little bit of time watching this and we'll see how it goes. Whoop.
Let me know when we are on air, and then we will be good. We're live. Hi, this is Ashley Bishop with Status Coup. John Farina and I are on the ground in Manhattan outside of a DSA watch party for the New York City mayor election tonight. I will just say our night got off to a late start. We apologize to everyone. We had some issues with press credentials and going to a location where they did not let us film. So the DSA in Manhattan very nicely is letting us film outside. So that's where we are. We are outside of a DSA watch party in Manhattan to see what happens tonight. I see we were in the car while all this was going on when the polls closed. Looks like Zohran is up by quite a lot, so very exciting. And I am talking to Theo, who very nicely has stepped outside of the party to talk to us. So, Theo, yes. Why did you show up tonight for the watch party for Zohran? Why did you vote for him?
I was super excited to be around people that have the same values as me. Lots of DSA members in here. You know, we all stand for the same values. We want to make our cities more affordable for the working class. Tax the rich because they can afford it, and we need to have them help pay for food, pay for bus subsidies. The working class take the bus. They need to be able to get to work. Why do we have a regressive tax on them for charging them $2.90 each time they want to ride the bus? So I voted for Zohran. I ranked Zohran number one, of course, because he's actually showing me that he's here for the people, and he's not here out of interest, for other countries. He doesn't have, he's not a lawyer for a war criminal, like Cuomo. And
so you didn't think his question, the question that he got during the debate about whether or not he would go to Israel if he was elected mayor of New York City was a good question to be asking, again, a candidate for the mayor of New York City?
No, I'm glad they asked that question because it showed exactly what all the other candidates were about. And it just right on the face, they showed played their cards. And, Zohran came out. He's the only one that said, I'm here for the New York City people. I'm here for the boroughs of New York, because that's the position that he's running for. He's not running for the mayor of Tel Aviv. He's running for the mayor of New York City.
Absolutely. And, so you would say it's more his economic policy and, a platform that is trying to center affordability of the city, not his memes and his charisma that has gotten him as far in the campaign as he's gone.
Honestly, I haven't even seen that many memes or, it's all about policy. It's about economic policy. He put down a plan that will show exactly how he's planning to pay for the things that he is promising to do. And I didn't see anything from any other candidate that had any plan that meaningfully would help New York City residents.
For sure. And I guess, to me, this is kind of like a referendum on the Democrats' policy up until this point where, they're so concerned about messaging and all of this stuff. And instead of, giving people a policy of things that would affect their material lives, again, they're focused on messaging. I would say that if he wins tonight, and even if he doesn't win tonight, it kind of says, no, that's not what people want. We're not looking for messaging. We're looking for actual policies that will alleviate the burdens of the working class.
Yeah, if we haven't learned anything from the last election, virtue signaling isn't going to get us anywhere. Meaningless, messaging from establishment Democrats is not going to get us anywhere. We need actual policies that are going to help actual people, working people, people who actually vote, and people who would be drawn to a candidate, not a party, and not an establishment party that, relies on the name of their party. They need policy. They need plans. That's what they need to get things done and to get people to vote for them.
I guess I would ask, before I let you go back into the party, because I hear cheering, I don't want to take you away from this potentially really big moment for us New Yorkers. But I would ask, as a New Yorker, is there a personal reason why you were drawn to Zohran?
By the way,
why does his
pause? I want to mention this. So when I was on that NYC DSA call the other day, they said they now have 10,000 dues paying members of the DSA. And their goal is to get up to 15,000 dues paying members by the end of November. And the reason this is important, again, this goes back to the funding issue. You guys always want to know, how are socialists funded? How are socialists funded? How are socialists funded? Let me show you how socialists are funded. Let me show you explicitly how socialists are funded. So if we go to the NYC, this is the New York City Democrat Socialists of America. This is the New York City chapter specifically. Join DSA. If you are a dues paying member of the DSA, you're paying minimally $5 a month to the DSA. Most people are going to be paying $15 a month. Some people are paying $25, $50, or doing another contribution that they set. So you're talking about, so we have 10,000 members of the DSA. Minimally, the DSA in New York City is pulling in $50,000 every single month, minimally, from 10,000 dues paying members of the DSA. So let's just see what happens if 15,000 members of the DSA times $15 a month. Let's just say that. That's $225,000 a month if they get to their goal. So people are always talking about Soros. I don't know why I look yellow now, but whatever. People are always talking about Soros, China. They're pulling in probably hundreds of thousands of dollars a month just in dues paying membership. That does not count as that is not included. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm looking at. That hundreds of thousands of dollars a month is separate from the $1 million that they raised for the Zohran Mamdani campaign across 20,000 individual donations for $80 each. So I'm trying to tell people is that the DSA specifically, and this is also true, the NYC DSA is obviously an individual chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. They're much larger than a lot of other socialist groups are, but they are self-funded. They are not funded by the CCP. They are not funded by Soros. They are not funded by USAID. They're not funded by any of this stuff. They're funded by dues and donations and voluntary support and event ticket sales and book publishing and merchandise sales and all of the other just normal ways that places are funded. And if people don't start understanding this, you are never going to be able to defeat the left, because people think, oh, you just find out their funding source. That's all it takes. That's all that's required. By the way, the Party for Socialism and Liberation is still funded by the CCP. Literally nothing has changed. Conservatives have been bitching and complaining about the Party for Socialism and Liberation being funded by the CCP. Data Republican did a whole media tour saying, hey guys, I just discovered the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and did you know they're funded by the CCP? And guess what? Fuck off. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The Party for Socialism and Liberation is still doing exactly what they were doing before. Their funding hasn't changed. They're still out there doing all the things they were already doing anyway. They're probably doing more of them now. The Republicans have already forgotten about it, because this is what happens. They go, okay, we know they're CCP funded. That's it. That's all that matters. We know they're CCP funded. And so it's like, now you know the funding piece for the DSA. They're funded based on donations, and they're also funded based on monthly dues that people pay, and that's how they're funded. That's how they're funded. Now, what are you going to fucking do about it? Probably nothing. Anyway.
Policy of, you know, the affordability policy resonate with you so much? Is that something that you can speak to a little bit?
At the end of the day, he's giving us, you know, policies that actually helps working New Yorkers, actually helps people. Grocery prices are sky high. He suggests, you know, opening city-run grocery stores that have been proven to work in other states. Massive successes. Why, if it can work in Columbus, Ohio, it can work in New York City, and we can make it, you know, 10 times bigger because we're an amazing city with tons of people that need the same things as everyone else. And we struggle here too, you know. Everyone needs to get their bills paid. And all I can say is that I didn't see anyone else that had the dedication to and the commitment to New York City people, the actual people who he will be the mayor of, than Zohran.
Yeah, and I mean, I will share, like, I live in Manhattan. I live here, and for me, the city has become unaffordable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's expensive. Groceries are expensive. My rent just got raised by $300 last month. I mean, it's insane, and I don't know who can afford to actually live here. And like you said, groceries are sky high. Any basic need that you might have, it is too expensive for most working people in the city. Even just the subway costs are too much. If we had fast and free buses, that would help me a lot. We go to protests all the time. We are back and forth all over the city. It would be nice to have, you know, something affordable to take us there to cover those things. So as a New Yorker, it certainly resonated with me. His policy slate has certainly resonated with me. And I have to imagine that everybody in there feels the same way. I would just ask Theo, I'm going to let you get back to partying. Do you have anything else that you would want to add for viewers of Status Quo about tonight, about being a New Yorker, anything at all?
Well, I just hope Zohran wins tonight because we need him more than ever. We need someone who's willing to stand up to Trump. I don't trust Cuomo to do that at all. We need someone, you know, who cares about the people that he's going to be governing, the actual constituents, and not big business, not, you know, billion or $1 million donors who, you know, will influence someone like Cuomo. I just really hope that, you know, we do the right thing. We vote for Zohran. He gets in tonight. And, you know, I think that he could be a catalyst for a larger movement. If we don't have this moment now, I'm really, you know, going to be disheartened, but, you know, we really need a strong leftist movement. We need someone who will, you know, who is not beholden to donors. And I think that that's going to be important, you know, for if we're going to build like a stronger leftist movement in general.
I would say that I agree. I think Zohran is what we were sold that Obama was. But this guy is the real deal, I think. Would hate to be proven wrong, but I'm happy to have some kind of realistic optimism in this moment. I think New Yorkers deserve it. I think everybody else around the country who's watching also deserves to have this moment of possibility. So thank you so much, Theo. I'm going to let you get back to partying. It was a pleasure talking to you. Have a great rest of your night, and I hope we get the thing that we want.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. Again, we are outside in Manhattan at a DSA watch party. So the Democratic Socialists of America, DSA. We are scouting for more people to talk to inside. So hang tight for a second while we get more people out here. I'm going to look for some updates since I can't actually see what's going on in there. I'm just going to look for some updates. I heard some cheering.
Tolkien fan.
So we will see. All right. Okay, so I'm looking at a live blog from Spectrum News 1.
I'm going to get her talking to more people. We're going to fast forward. I want to see her talking to people.
Why they're here tonight. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming outside to talk to us. I'm Ashley, and you are?
Sai.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Milo.
Milo, nice to meet you guys. Again, thank you so much for talking. So I guess I would just ask the basic question. Why did you guys show up tonight to support Zohran, and why did you vote for him?
I mean, his entire platform, if I'm being honest. A significant portion of his platform actually won't benefit me. I don't live in rent-stabilized housing, but I am for freezing the rent because New Yorkers deserve to be able to afford to live in New York. I do not have children, but New Yorkers deserve to have childcare for the children in their lives so that they're able to go out and, support those families. I know that supporting families without childcare is extremely difficult. I'm down for the city-run grocery stores, which so many people say is against capitalism, but he's not talking about getting rid of, privately owned grocery stores. He's just talking about supplementing it for people that can't afford those locations. He speaks to the people, and that's why I voted for him.
Excellent answer. What about you, Milo?
Yeah, so I mean, I support all the same policies that Sky was talking about. For me personally, I first encountered Zohran when I was volunteering for another socialist candidate in 2022, actually right down here in the Lower East Side. And at that point, Zohran was a state assembly member. He really didn't have any other reason to be coming to that campaign other than that he is part of this movement. He's part of DSA, and he cares about these policies, and he cares about building a socialist block of power in the city. And so Zohran came to multiple canvases, spoke to us, got people fired up, got people excited about this very tiny little campaign in the Lower East Side. And so that just really inspired me. And from that time, just hearing him speak and seeing him interact with people, you could tell that he was going places and he was an incredibly talented politician. And I'm just so excited to see how far he's come and see how close we are to actually winning this thing. It's amazing.
I would also like to add that one of the number one reasons that I voted for him is that I am over the old guard Democratic establishment who has been in control and had power for way too long. They won't even be alive to see the impacts of the policies they're enacting on all of us younger generations right now. And they need to cede their power and give those spaces to young people that actually know what's going on and will live to deal with the consequences of their actions.
I mean, I think that's a wonderful thing to kind of add. And you guys said so much, and I want to hit on as much of it as I can. I would address that first. I mean, we talk about that a lot at Status Coup, that the Democrats have had their time to prove that they have policies and something to offer working people. I think the last election solidified for a lot of us that they don't have anything to offer, and they are just so resistant to, I think we kind of like to say, ever learning anything, because they don't serve us, right? Like they betray every time that they lose an election who their real constituency is. It's not the working people of New York or any other city in the U.S. It is their donors. That's who they're serving. And I think that tonight really shows that if you have something to offer to working people, they will show up. They will show up. And like you said, he's been out here. He's become a fixture of New York. He has, he went on that long walk the other day with people just walking around New York. And he's here. He's doing the work. He has led all kinds of actions in the city. And Andrew Cuomo's not out here. He has no ground game.
I would love to see Andrew Cuomo try to walk from the top of Manhattan to the bottom. I would pay money to see that walk happen. He didn't even take public transit to go and vote today.
He drives his muscle car 2 blocks to his polling site. That tells you all you need to know.
Absolutely. And he had someone holding a parking space. I saw photos of his press people or whoever, his helpers, standing in a parking spot, just, waiting for him to arrive and pull in. that is crazy. And I don't think that Zohran was doing that. I don't know how he arrived. I'm going to assume it was not in quite that fashion.
No, definitely not. He, I can never pinpoint where he shows up. He shows up where the people are.
I love that. He shows up where the people are. And the people have shown up for him tonight and across the city. I think it's pretty clear. And again, like he is doing so much better than anyone, than I will say, could have imagined. I remember when they were when he was considering a run for mayor and, DSA was talking about it and saying, I don't know if we should endorse him. And he said, like, I'm not going to run without the backing of the DSA, without this endorsement, which already kind of tells you the kind of person that he is and why he's running. And I remember thinking at that time, it's a long shot, but he seems cool. So why not? Like maybe he will, get some more exposure to people who wouldn't have been exposed to left politics and left ideas and real left policy. And if that was all that happened and he lost by a landslide, which we would kind of expect, then maybe it still helps in that way. But I mean, he has come so far that it's just kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that people don't understand about Zohran is not a politician who supported progressive policies and then came to DSA and asked for their endorsement and just tried to benefit off of all the volunteers and all the energy we have. Zohran is a cadre member of DSA who's been organizing with DSA for years, and he's here because he comes out of that movement. And so he is accountable to the organization and to all of the supporters across the city who believe in these policies and have donated their time and their money and their energy to this campaign. And so he's not beholden to the standard kind of progressive groups or the big donors that the Democratic Party politicians are beholden to. So that's the difference. And that's why when people ask me, oh, well, how can you trust this guy? Politicians let us down all the time. I say, yeah, you're absolutely right. But you have to look at where their support and where their power is coming from. And that's the difference.
That's an excellent point. And as you guys said, the power that he has is coming from the people. It's not coming from, the donor class, the billionaires. It's coming from all the people who gave him the ground game that he has and that have shown up for him tonight.
I mean, I would say that since Citizens United happened,
one of the things that's been very striking to me because I've been listening to a number of these DSA calls and the NYC DSA calls specifically lately. One of the things that's so striking to me about listening to the NYC DSA, they are energized AF. They are excited. They feel really good about all this. When you listen to their meetings, when you go on the Zoom calls, they're actually streaming in-person meetings so you can hear the people in the room. They're cheering, they're shouting, they're having a great time. I bet it's actually a really positive environment to be a part of. They're really excited about Zohran. So even though we started the night watching revolutionary communists saying they don't like him and they don't want to vote for him, the DSA people are stoked about him. And so for everyone who was like, and again, I feel like I don't get enough credit for saying this. I remember back in January, February, March, when I was like, the left is organizing, the left is organizing, the left is organizing, the left is organizing. All I got from Republicans is, Karlyn, the left is dead. The Democratic Party is dead. They're all demoralized. You never listen to anyone who tells you the Democrats were demoralized again, because the Democrats were so demoralized that, the left was so demoralized that the DSA ended up winning the Democratic nomination for mayor in New York City. And I tried to tell people, I was like, no, they're not. They're actually really excited about this. The left is fine. The left is just organizing. It's cold out right now. No one wanted to listen. The DSA is far more excited than the Democratic Party is. They're not the same thing. The DSA is far more excited than the Republicans and the GOP and the MAGA base are, especially with how pissed off they're all at Trump right now for all the Epstein stuff. Like, the DSA is energized and focused, and they have money to work with, and they have a mission and they have a goal. It's probably one of the most functional political campaigns that exists in the country, if we're being honest about it.
The voice of we the people has not been heard in politics at all. And I think that is finally changing. Enough people are waking up and realizing that there's too much money in politics and that politicians should be beholden to nobody but the people. And that corporations have for far too long been able to run the show and make the decisions that impact millions of people's lives on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And I would ask you guys, we're talking about public servants. You guys clearly are very plugged into all of this. What do you think about Brad Lander and the cross endorsement that they've given each other? And we interviewed him last week, maybe, about his arrests at 26 Federal Plaza. And over the last week, we've been watching. And I will say for myself, I've been very impressed with the way that Brad Lander has really behaved with, I don't know. He's shown that he really is a public servant and he's not in it for himself. That's my opinion. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. First, I think as myself, a Jewish New Yorker, I think
Jewish.
it's so
we love
it's so
Jews, no
important
anti-Semitism.
that we have a Jewish politician who is standing behind a Muslim politician, and they're speaking explicitly about the fact that working class people in this city, their interests are aligned, and we're not going to let.
You mean to tell me this Jewish democratic socialist has not been run out of the left? Because I am to believe that the left hates Jews, according to the conservative Zionists. You're telling me that democratic socialists welcome Jews in their ranks? I thought they were all anti-Semitic Jew haters, according to conservative media.
These politicians drive wedges between different racial groups with this bullshit. So that's one. And two, I just think it's a great testament to the power of the ranked choice system that we have for these candidates to understand the strategy and to understand that they are actually supporting something bigger than themselves. And so I think it's really rare in politics to see politicians look beyond their own self-interest and their own ability to hold power. And just to see Brad Lander do that. And look, he's a really smart and accomplished person. He knows that cross-endorsing Zohran is probably going to end up doing more for Zohran than it does for him. And he did it anyway because he actually believes in this stuff. And so that's just really inspiring. And yeah, as someone who has had critiques of certain things and certain policies he supported in the past, I just think it's a real testament to his integrity.
I would agree.
I would just give a hard agree on everything that Milo just said. I think that one of the most beautiful things that I have seen in a long time is this solidarity between opposition politicians. When was the last time you saw a good faith debate even happen? When was the last time that you saw politicians be nice to each other without tearing one another down? The way that Lander and Mamdani came together in this election, I think, is an inspiration. And I think that it is an example for what the people want from politicians. We don't want politicians that insult one another, that tear each other down. We want politicians that lift each other up, that respect one another's opinions and say, hey, we both agree that these improvements need to happen. The only thing we disagree on is how they should be approached. And that's what it used to be. And I hope that that's something we're getting back to.
I think that's a great answer. You guys have said so much. I guess the only thing that I would ask is there a personal reason that you guys showed up for Zohran, aside from anything else that you've mentioned, as far as policies and anything else that you guys would want to share with viewers of Status Quo who might relate to other people who are out here, who might not even be from the city and don't fully understand the things that are, let's say, like New York City specific? Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys would want to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest ask for everyone is just, if you've been inspired by this campaign, if you believe in these policies, get involved. It feels so much better, I can tell you. It feels so much better to knock on a door and talk to a voter and realize that there are so many people that believe in the stuff that we believe in and just want politicians to fight for their interests. That feels so much better than just scrolling on Twitter and being very concerned, which is what I'll be doing for the rest of the night. But after tonight, if you're in New York, the chances are we're going to have to keep going through November. So this is certainly not over. And so just get involved. It's always a little bit scary at first to knock on your first door, to make your first phone call. But trust me, it gets easier. It gets better. People, by and large, are really nice, really excited to see you. And it just feels really good. And you form so many amazing relationships with other people who share values with you. So I just couldn't recommend it enough.
Yeah. And I mean, on that note, look at what it did. Yeah. This is what, canvassing and phone banking and all of this stuff actually did for New York City in an election that seemed like it was just such a long shot. And again, even if he doesn't win, it's so close. We are so close. He is up in the polls right now, so we don't really know. And you know, I will just say, I canvassed, I phone banked, I'm here with everybody.
All right. This isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I thought it looked like more like man on the street interviews, and they're just interviewing DSA people. And so, yeah, we know the DSA like Zohran. We know that. We don't need that information. Thank you. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for Socialism Saturday for tonight. I feel like those were a couple pretty good presentations to watch to get the socialist mindset. Now, as a reminder, I do take Sundays off from streaming. So first off, I want to thank everyone that sent in a super chat tonight. Thank you guys for all the support. I really do appreciate it. As a reminder, the very best way to support my work is by heading over to my Substack, which is Karlyn, Karlyn, .substack.com. You can see it on the screen right there. This is $8 a month, $80 a year to keep me independently funded by people just like you. So I never have to sell you any sort of political narrative. I will never give you any talking points. I will always show you the receipts and tell you the truth and let you decide what you think about what all this information needs. As a reminder, I do take Sundays off from streaming because I need a day a week off because I go insane doing this sort of thing. But we will be having movie night tomorrow in the supporter Discord. Movie nights are on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. and then on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Tomorrow at 8 p.m., we're going to be watching Dave, which is like the American kind of classic movie where the president gets like knocked unconscious or something and they have to bring in an imposter president. And it's a fun little movie. It's a patriotic July for movie night. So Jennifer is doing a whole bunch of America themed, movies and stuff like that. So we will be watching Dave tomorrow at 8 p.m. in the supporter Discord. On Monday at 9 p.m., I think Mac B is watching Goldfinger. So he's doing James Bond July. So there's a new James Bond movie every Monday night at 9. And so that will be on Monday nights. If you are on the Discord, if you are in the Substack as a supporter, I will be sending out a chat message with the Discord link. And yeah, there was an old episode of Nitwits that got posted today. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's not new. That's old. That is me giving the middle finger to Big Tech because Big Tech doesn't want that episode of Nitwits up. And the thing is, Big Tech is doing a lot of things that I really don't like, and he's doing them just to annoy me. And so if he's going to be doing things just to annoy me, then I'm going to do things just to annoy him. And I happen to know that Big Tech has, that there are several Big Tech videos on this channel that he doesn't want on this channel. And because I was such a nice person, and I was trying to keep the peace for a long time, I took the videos off the channel. I made them unlisted. I said, okay, you're going to cry about these videos being on my YouTube channel. I will make them unlisted just to keep the peace. And now Big Tech is being a big baby and he's being a pain in the ass and he's being completely fuck off unreasonable. And he's pissed me off. He has pissed me off to a really great degree because he's just being so fucking absurd. So I am no longer inclined to hide the videos on my channel that he doesn't like. So I don't know why that published as a new video. I have no idea. It's a stream I did it's a stream I did sometime last year during the summer. But what I do know is Big Tech really doesn't like it. And perhaps if Big Tech stopped behaving like an unhinged retard and just acted like a normal person, maybe I would be inclined to take them down again, but I'm not taking them down again just to be a nice person because he doesn't fucking appreciate when I do that. So you don't appreciate something, you lose it. Let that be a lesson. Thank you, Rocky Mountain Bear. I do appreciate the super chat. I don't see any tweet from him. I don't see any tweet from him saying if Karlyn reacts to this video, then I will unblock her. I don't see any tweet from him to that effect. So no, Marty, no, I'm not currently planning on reacting to the music video. And to be honest, I don't even know if I care anymore. Well, you took down the messages though, didn't you? So no, listen, had Big Tech just unblocked me when he should have unblocked me, which is the other day, then none of this, there'd be no videos that he doesn't like on my YouTube channel. I would have continued to play nice, but he's not playing nice. And furthermore, okay, because it's the end of the show, I'll talk about this. Hang on. Furthermore, I know for a fact that the reason that he has me blocked on his Twitter is to prevent me from being in those Twitter spaces. Why do I know that? Because he said it, and watch him fucking
Karlyn's
smile.
mad because she can't join the Twitter spaces with HT. And the reason is that I blocked her.
You're going to tell me he doesn't know what he's fucking doing? You're going to tell me he's not doing it just to be an asshole? So no, he was served up with, if people don't know what this is about, don't worry about it. Socialism Saturday is over. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about now. He was served up such an easy opportunity. Like, he was served it up on a silver fucking platter. Just everyone's laughing. Everyone's being nice to each other. Everyone's trying to get along. Why don't you just unblock me so I can actually go to the Twitter spaces? This has nothing to fuck off do with you. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly why he has me blocked. It's not because he's afraid that I'm going to be mean to him. Although, if he wants to pretend that I'm going to be mean to him, now I actually will be fucking mean to him. Why will I be mean to him? He does shit just to annoy me all the fucking time. He has an emoji about me on his channel that he added specifically just to annoy me. He does shit like this where he blocks me on Twitter just so I can't go to Twitter spaces that I'm listening to when he's the co-host. He can go fuck right off. I have been diplomatic with him for over a fucking year. I have held so much back that I could have said. I have held so much back that I could have done. And he was served up. He has been served opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity just to level shit out and just to have everything be nice. And he wouldn't do it because he's an asshole. So since he hasn't appreciated any of the things that I have held back from being public, since he has never appreciated, then I never talked about his past. I never made fun of him for being bald. I never talked about his wife. I never watched the videos that he doesn't want shown. I actually removed videos from my channel just because he was upset about them. Never got a fucking thank you for that. And now he wants to keep me blocked on Twitter just to prevent me from being a listener on Twitter spaces because he doesn't like it because I'm talking to Adam and he's pissed off that I'm talking to Adam, and he wants to make it seem like it's all about him when it's actually not about him. It's actually just about me liking talking to Adam and Amalek, which I know because they're fucking normal human beings that just have normal human conversation. He can't fucking stand it because he feels like it's all his. So he could have unblocked me the other day. He chose not to. He could have unblocked me yesterday. He chose not to. Now I'm actually fucking pissed off about this, and I'm not fucking around anymore. He wants to keep fighting with me. He could have had, he says, I just want peace. I just don't want drama. I just want peace. I just don't want drama. No, he fucking doesn't. He wants to keep fighting. He makes it clear through his behaviors that he wants to keep fighting. I have been trying to stop fighting with him for a fucking year. I have begged him to stop fighting. I have tried everything I can do to stop fighting. He demanded I apologize the other day 3 times on a stream, which I did, and I had no problem doing it. I also apologized to him in private. I also apologized to him on another stream the next day, and that's not even the only fucking time I've apologized to him. And I'm issuing all these fucking apologies when, P.S., just so we're very clear, I don't even think I was the aggressor in this situation. I think he was the aggressor in this situation from the very fuck off beginning. I even said, you know what? You don't want to put on your big boy pants and apologize to me for all the fucked up shit you did to me? Then fine. Fine, asshole. Just unblock me on Twitter. Nope, he couldn't do that. Has to be all in his feelings about it. Well, you know what? I apologized over and 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 over again when I don't even think I was fucking wrong, just to try to stop fighting when he's going, I just want peace, Karlyn. I just don't want drama. I just want peace. I just don't want drama. But yet all of his behaviors are still around, making more drama where there doesn't need to be any, just so he can feel like he's in control of the situation. And someday I might do the psychoanalysis that I've sent to him in private, which he really doesn't like that. He really doesn't like this, talking about what a control freak he is because, and by the way, you confirmed that I was right about the psychoanalysis and you confirmed that I was right in everything that I said because he did. Like, that's the most ironic part of this whole thing is I didn't even know if I was right about the psychological stuff. I was like, maybe I'm right about this, but maybe I'm not. Him being so upset about the psychological stuff just confirms that I was absolutely right in every single thing that I said. This is a control issue, and I'm not going to go any more into that now, but if I feel like going into more about the inner workings of your psychology, then I fuck off will, because I'm sick of this shit. I have held back so many things that I could have said over the last year. I've held back so many things just to be like, just don't do it. You're going to he's going to be pissed off. He's going to do all this shit. You can kick and scream and do all the fucking streams you want about me. You can Photoshop all the fucking pictures of me. You can call me every fucking name in the book. You can call me fat 15 ways from Sunday. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. So, if he wants me to watch that fucking video on stream and then he says he will unblock me if I watch that video, then he can tweet that out and everyone can see that, because I no longer trust him to do the right thing at all. The right thing would have been quietly unblocking me the other day when he had the opportunity, when everyone was happy, and I don't care anymore. So if he wants to arrange a deal, he can put it on his public timeline so that everyone can see it, so that when I watch the video and I react to the video and I do every single thing that he wants me to do and he still doesn't fucking unblock me, everyone can see, oh, he agreed to do something and then he did the actual opposite of that thing, which has been the pattern for the entire fuck off year. So that's how I feel about that. Whatever. And Marty, you can deliver all of that message. I don't care. So, people don't like hearing that. I don't really care. Sorry, it's my stream. I'll do what I want. Anyway, I'm going to go relax now, and I'm going to go try to listen into a Twitter space until someone decides to kick me out of the Twitter space because he's being an asshole for no good reason. So that's all we have. I will see you guys for movie night tomorrow. Yeah, it is also tiring. You think you're tired by this? Can you imagine how I feel about this? The fact, like, when I saw that on his stream where he's like, yeah, I blocked her to keep her out of the Twitter space. I know that it keeps her out of the Twitter space. It's like, no. This is not a fucking molehill. This is not a fucking molehill. This has been a year of bullshit where I have tried over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to keep the peace. He has thrown it back at me every single fucking time. I am fucking sick of it. He wants to keep making threats to me, just like he did on his stream the other day. He wants to keep threatening me. He wants to send me DMs saying he's going to bully me until I want to kill myself, which he actually did say to me and which I absolutely have on DM. You can go ahead and try, motherfucker. If you want to get all pissed off and you want to try to publicly bully me until I want to kill myself, go ahead and give it a try, Mike. Go ahead and give it a try. Because I'm done with this bullshit. I'm absolutely done. He has relied on my fucking grace for a year. He hasn't appreciated it at all. I haven't said half of the things that I could say about him. I haven't released half of the information that I could about him. Never has any fucking appreciation. I am sick of it. I'm done. So, he can decide if he wants to fix this. He can decide if he wants to play nicely, but I'm not falling for these veiled fucking threats anymore. I'm not playing this fucking control game anymore where he needs to position himself to be in control of every situation. All I have ever asked for is for everything to level out and everything to be nice and everyone to stop fucking fighting, but he doesn't want to fight with me. He wants to keep fighting with me. So you know what? If he wants to go to fucking war with me, then we'll actually go to fucking war. And I have no issue with it. Anyway, that's it. I'm going. Bye. We'll see you later. Have a good one.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer. is influencing my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for the people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.